Monsieur Berard Dupre, CEO of Seychelles Broadcasting Corporation. Can we please give my brother a welcoming round of applause? Also, I want to invite to the stage Miriam Di Carvalho. Miriam, can you please join us, please? Miriam is the GM Broadcast and Media for Liquid Telecom. Please appreciate the lady. Right. I'm not entirely sure. Please, can someone tell me, do we have anyone online? Because I've got a few here that I understand are online. We have Quentin Fredericks. Quentin Fredericks online? Quentin, can you hear me? Quentin? No? Cannot hear me. When we bring him back, can we please let me know so I can we can introduce him. So, you're welcome, guys. We want to talk about the issue of monetizing content or monetization for broadcasters, not just monetizing content. And I'm glad that now I have a content producer stroke distributor on the panel. And you have broadcast experience as well because you also used to work for the SABC, although now you run your own company called Aventainment. I will allow you to talk a little bit more about yourself, but I just wanted to contextualize it for the audience so they of course, know who you are. Monsieur Dupre needs no introduction. He's a board member of SABA and also the Director General for Seychelles Broadcasting Corporation. You see, the thing about Seychelles quickly is it's a beautiful place, of course. And also, you're a bit like the microcosm of Sabah. I'll tell you why. Seychelles is a small country in terms of numbers, we know that. But the things you guys are doing, especially in the audiovisual sector, it's immensely powerful and innovative. That it's a bit like Sabah, like I said, because Sabah is a regional organization, but doing powerful stuff. So I want to commend you, and I'm sure you'll shed more light into how you are getting to manage to do all this stuff, and that how we, or even the so-called bigger countries, can learn from what you're doing. So you're welcome. You get a chance to talk more about this. And the lady in the house, Miriam, you're welcome. You had a powerful presentation yesterday looking at the future and how broadcasters can tap into that with the platform of OTT and streaming. But now we want to also focus on how you think they can make money from this stuff. All right? So if you don't mind, I will start with you so we can do a reverse. So I know people already know who you are, but I just wanted you to give us a context about how you see this conversation. What are your initial issues that you think, okay, you would like us to deliberate on? And then we can contextualize this. Then Bernard will do the same, and also Graham will do the same. But please, guys, if I have someone online, can someone just ping me so I don't get people ignored like I did yesterday? Miriam, please.
Thank you, Benjamin. So overall, Africa is a small advertising market due to the difficulty of quantifying audiences and the viewing patterns with enough accuracy. Where available, though, TV advertising is still a good source of creating additional revenue. So I did touch on it yesterday, and we've noticed on our platform, a lot of our customers are looking to ad insertions, specifically dynamic ad insertion, which is ad technology that basically allows you to insert ads to live linear as well as VOD content. I don't know if our broadcasting specialists here can comment and let us know if that is some of the techniques that they are considering at looking to use and boost their revenues. Okay, so
I usually run this is once you finish with your, if that is it from you, then I will get Berard to also say a few things, because what I don't want to do right now, we get to that, is to go back and forth, and then the gentleman here gets ignored and he doesn't get a chance to speak. But If you finished, then Berat, obviously you can come in and just tell us a little bit more about, you know, the context of this for you. And then the issue of dynamic ad insert, we'll bring it back on and let everybody, including the audience, engage with that, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Benjamin.
Is that on? Is he on?
Thank you, Benjamin. Good afternoon, everybody. But it does lead on from what Ms. De Carvalho is saying in terms of revenue. But before we do that, let's look at why we are talking about revenue. As public service broadcasters, we should not really be talking about revenue. We should be funded. But the reality why we are is because we are shortchanged. And we need money. We're not getting it from the state. And most public broadcasters around the world, every year, from the BBC elsewhere, the spending review means a few millions less. So broadcasters like ourselves are in a similar position. So some of us are fortunate, like SBC, to keep the revenue that we make. That bridges the gap. But the gap gets bigger and bigger. So if you want to, then comes two issues, where there's a funding issue, but also your relevancy. So if you want to remain relevant, you need to invest in technologies, you need to stay ahead and converge. So that's why we're talking funding. We're looking at ways where we want to. Because ideally, let's say SBC goes to an OTT service, which it is going, we've been given money by the government to launch an OTT service this year. We're grateful for that, because the government recognizes that this is where the national broadcaster should be as well. Not necessarily for making money. If we made a net nil, it's because we want to be able to be there in the space where we can inform, educate, entertain, inspire, and do our role. So that is a recognition of that bit. Now, of course, any plus you make is a bonus for you to invest back into the first thing, content. So in summarizing revenue making, all broadcasters should look at all ways, all means that is available to generate revenue.
Okay. So before I jump into to get Graham to comment, you said something now that is the crux of this conversation. And the reason why I said this is the crux is we hear it all the time. All broadcasters should look at all means and all ways to generate revenue. Now, the question is, we need to break that down. What are those ways? What are those means? Which tie into what Ms. Carvalho is just saying now. And are they really, really going to work? Monetization models. That's what we're going to discuss. Well, thank you. Graham, please.
Thank you. So, I mean, I think that point that you ended on is incredibly important. So when we look at the entire value chain around content and content distribution in specifically a video entertainment background, there's opportunities for monetization at every single point of the value chain, from production to curation to distribution. And we are living in a world that's rapidly changing, and those changes are impacting on the monetization models against which we operate. And it's not just true of the African continent, but globally, public broadcasters are facing a funding crunch. Resources being made available to them have been reduced by governments or whatever funding mechanism is being used. So I think there are a whole lot of opportunities available in the space in order to monetize content. And I just wanted to put out a couple of thoughts that I have broadly around these opportunities. So I think the first one that I would say is that as a broadcaster or a content curator, when you start a process, begin with the end in mind. So when you either commission content for the platform or acquire content in whatever form you do, have an understanding of how you're going to use that content to monetize the platform. I also think a point that's really worth emphasizing is the importance of rights ownership in monetization models and making conscious decisions around rights ownership, around content in those particular models, because a whole lot of doors get opened in advertising, et cetera, but at the same time there are quite serious cost implications.
Okay, excellent. So now, this is getting interesting. So correct me if I'm wrong or if I've missed something out. So I'm looking at it from this point of view that broadly speaking, and again, please add to it if I've missed something. There are three ways that a broadcaster, or more appropriately, a public service or a state-owned broadcaster can generate funding. Three broad subventions. That is funding from the government. The other is advertising. And then the third one could be content licensing. Okay? Is there any other model, any other means that doesn't fall within this category that anybody can bring into play for me? Or do we all agree those are the three main broad ways that we can get money as broadcasters, get funding or get finance as broadcasters, right? Okay, I have my prof in the front. Can we, do we have someone with the mic? Okay. Nelly, can we get the mic, please? I don't know where the mic ladies. Yeah, you can carry on. I just want, because this is being recorded, so we wanted to, yeah, in the front here, Nonks. Thank you.
Yeah, hello. I'm just sharing my experience in terms of raising revenue. One other source is, in the name of cost recovery, billing public sector agencies. Services we used to render them free will no more be rendered free. Because as the public, state funds contribution declines, you use that as an excuse to tell them that, look, I used to do this for you for free. I have cost recovery invoicing, so I will invoice you. And in our case, that has helped us to bump up our revenue quite a bit.
Awesome, that's fantastic. So we will call that cost recovery, right? Cost recovery means. Now the reason why I'm bringing this up, okay, you want to add something?
I just wanted to add maybe to the
Please,
the
go
list
ahead.
of-
That's why we're here.
So, I mean, there's a number of different models against which public broadcasters operate, but I mean, I think there are significant opportunities around revenue generation that extend beyond those traditional things. So, good examples would be the hiring of facilities, so studios for productions, for other news organizations to use, and also with the digitization of a whole range of processes that we're involved in, the renting out of space, say for example on a DTT network or those kind of things. So I think broadly, monetization opportunities fall under those broad umbrellas. But within that, there are so many different ways of bringing in revenue that would align broadly to those things.
Fantastic. And with your facility hire out, would that also include something like the transmitter hire out as well? Okay. The reason why I'm sort of trying to detail this is because we want to go into it one by one and then see what the issues are with broadcasters. Why is it that broadcasters are always often hamstrung with finances? You know, because if we have enough financing, we will be able to fund quality content and then the game gets raised. One of the issues that you have within our continent is that the production quality is poor. That can be attributed vice versa to lack of enough funding. But let me start with advertising, since it is what Miriam raised. Now, the advertising market in Africa is dire, is very, very small. Why is that an issue, Berat, advertising market. Why is that a problem? Both from the broadcasting side of things and also from the advertiser side of things, the way you say it. Then I will ask Graham to chip into that. Then I will come back to you finally, Miriam, to see how you think we can mix things around in this space.
Yeah, indeed, we have even given up on advertising as being the way.
Really?
In terms of getting more money. Because especially in a market like Seychelles or others where there is digital, those that used to come to you are doing it themselves on Facebook, whatever, on their website, and through all other means. So we've seen a significant decline in our advertising revenue. And the exercise that now, in terms of looking at all options, what my colleague here has said is actually looking at all options and looking at how we can make money. Okay. And if I can go to say is that one of the reasons why people came to you for advertising is because you had good content that were attracting viewers.
Yes.
You still have that. You still have that content. And for you, that is what where the value is. Nobody has it. And that is why OTT, video on demand, for us, is the way, and audio on demand. We launch an audio on demand service in June as a precursor to the video on demand basically we had to make sure that we stave off the decline in revenue that we were getting from the traditional way of commercializing the content.
Awesome, awesome. Graham, you've seen it. You understand the play. Why is it that despite all these years we've been doing broadcasting, advertising is still it's a problem in terms of the space and how big the pie is in that space?
So for me, there's two elements to the answer. The one is that the really large decisions around advertising budgets in African markets are generally taken in Europe and the US. And a lot of those decisions are informed by stereotypes or stereotypical views of the African continent. Nobody can deny that there's a massive African market, both collectively with all the countries together and individually. I mean, the size of the population in countries like Nigeria, etc., is significant. Their buying power is significant. So it's say like a kind of Afro-pessimism that informs decision making. The other issue, and for me this is one of the biggest challenges that anyone going into a kind of a free-to-view market experiences, is that especially in advertising, if you can't measure it, it doesn't mean anything. And I mean, it saddened me to hear yesterday that the same complaints around polling companies in various markets are exactly the same today as they were 5 years ago. And in order for advertisers to make investments, the agencies, the media buying agencies and the like, they need to have confidence in the numbers that they're reaching. So I would suggest that one of the priorities, if advertising is identified as a key means of generating revenue, is to ensure the establishment of reliable, credible audience polling agencies, so those advertisers know and understand what markets they're buying into.
Okay. All right. We'll speak to that as well quickly, but before then, Miriam, what do you see, Liquid? What do you guys see with regards to advertising as a source of revenue for broadcasters? And speak to how you think broadcasters can latch on that and expand it to make sure that they get sizable amount coming back from advertising, or maybe is it a dead horse?
I wouldn't call it a dead horse. So what we see with our broadcasting customers, most of them are running OTT platforms, so it's not quite your conventional paid platform sort of advertising. And with them having a lot of free content on there, the way that they monetize and try and create some revenue is by having target inserted ads that actually target the audiences that they are reaching. So, you know, when you have somebody that goes in and watches a clip, say for example on football, then, you know, it stores his data, and the next time he goes on, he'll get an ad that's relevant to something that he's watched. So it's something that he likes. So he watches that ad. And this is what we find with our customers. A lot of them are starting to focus on that sort of ad insertion to reach, you know, targeted audiences and create additional revenues by not just inserting any kind of ad where, you know, viewers aren't really interested in seeing what is being shown on the screen. But like Graham mentioned, yes, advertisers are obviously only keen to jump on board and have this content used for advertising if there are analytics available and if they can see how many eyeballs are being reached. And with Africa, it is difficult. And I think maybe that is why the whole ad insertion in Africa hasn't taken off as well as it has in the rest of the world. But then once again, also the rest of the world is predominantly going into the streaming platform now, where Africa is still a little bit behind in that sense. So maybe once we catch up on the mobile streaming side of things, maybe the ad insertion market will create a greater revenue for broadcasters. But perhaps until that point, other alternatives might have to be considered.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
If I can make a point on this, what Graham said about
Go ahead, sir.
the metrics. Yes. Indeed, one of the ways you get back advertisers is once you've gone to an online platform and you're able to show them the figures. We went to Airtel and showed them the figures on our audio on demand platform. Now they were willing to talk. Now they were willing to work with us in terms of advertising. So they're going digital and making available the figures does help in bringing back the advertisers.
Okay, awesome. Now, given the context of what we've been talking about, how you can broaden the space within advertising, I want to come to my senior execs here to get experiences from individual organizations to see how is the advertising space in your jurisdiction. I know there's competition, you need to show figures and stuff, but how much of your revenues are coming now from advertising, and what are you projecting, given what's been discussed and the technologies and innovations that we have to make it work? What are you projecting to get from that advertising part? Once we close that, then we can move to other sources of revenue generation and see how that can also help bring money to the scale. If you don't mind, I will start with Arthur, because can I have a mic for my host DG? Because you also, in Rwanda, everybody alludes to that. You guys are doing, you are more or less above the curve. And you do a lot of stuff, but I don't know what your experience is in this area of revenue generation. Maybe you can chip in, sir, for me.
Benjamin, I was chatting with my brother here from TBC, and I thought for me we should be discussing what are the options for financing public service broadcasters. Because when you talk about, and I think my brother from Seychelles said it, when you talk about public service broadcasting and advertisement, we are completely getting it wrong. I think we shouldn't be talking about advertisement in public service broadcasting. We should be looking at what models do we have available that can be able to sustain a financing model for public service broadcasters without talking about even advertisement.
Okay.
But unfortunately, we are into this field. But maybe next time we should be looking at those models. So in our case, the sad reality is that, 80% of our revenues come from advertisement.
80.
Yeah, 80. And we're lucky that when the ratings, we happen to be number one on the market, so we tend to squeeze the commercial players so much. But a good portion of our revenue also comes from renting out our DTT infrastructure and FM infrastructure. So we have the likes of BBC that, I hope they're not in the room, BBC, VOA, RFE. They have their transmitters on our masts, and they pay handsomely for that. It's a very good revenue base. Then also we have, as a signal distributor, we have a couple of private TV stations that run on our head end, and these also we charge them to carry their signal.
Okay.
So for now, it's working. We know it's sustaining us. We don't have to rely on the government, and the good thing, like Seychelles also, all the money that we collect comes into our coffers, and then we manage it. It doesn't have to go to the national treasury. But again, we go back to this sustainable financing model for a public service broadcaster should not be related to advertising.
Why? Why not?
Because of the pressures. I mean, one of the key, if you want to be a true public service independent broadcaster, you should not be minding about running behind these commercial big maltrators like MTN, like Airtel, like the breweries, like this. You're supposed to be neutral. You're supposed to be having a fund that's going to help you, to create content that is not commercially viable. If I'm going to do a show on our culture, on health, on marginalized groups, like in remote areas, those shows do not generate any revenues. They're not attractive to the advertisers. So I'll be forced, if I'm a public service broadcaster wants to make money, I'll be forced to only do shows that are going to be attractive to the advertisers, which are mainly entertainment shows. And I'll forget these other important sectors that are key for a country. So if you're able to, if you want to go and give coverage to these other areas that are not necessarily commercially attractive, you don't have to be suffering with advertisers. And that's the model that is everywhere across the world.
So double A. If we go with that, and we say, just theoretically, we fold your 80% and say you remove advertising, then you have 80% gap in your funding, isn't it?
That's why we're talking about a model that will help you to cover that 80%. The South Africans were talking about device, household
so levy-dependent funding mechanism.
Zambians are using, I think, telcos or telecoms. In Zimbabwe, they used to have a fee for motor vehicles. Every vehicle pays some sort of levy to finance the public service broadcaster. Here, we're thinking about how we can also work with telcos, that every airtime you pay, there's a portion that goes to the public service broadcasting. And I think we really have to find out, there's so many models depending on a country. But we need to think about how public service broadcasters show advertisement. Okay.
All right. That's food for thought. Who do I go to next? Okay, I have a hand from NTA, Nigeria. Alaji Dembos.
Yeah, I think I agree with the last speaker, 100%. I think you asked a question whether the advertising issue is a dead horse or otherwise. But I think generally we have a problem with advertising. And the best bet for us, I think, is diversification. So I agree with the last speaker, 100%, especially for those of us who are in the public sector.
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge I'm facing here, and that's the reason why we're having this conversation. We know we need to diversify. We know we need to draw back from advertising. All right, so we'll talk about the other options, but I want to hear from you, sir. You must have thought about this. In your space, in Nigeria, if you didn't have advertising, what would be the sources of revenue? And please, I'm sure you agree with me, my ogas, my seniors, that relying on government subvention won't take you anywhere. Otherwise, we won't be having this conversation. So if we say government subvention is going to be minimal, advertising, we shouldn't focus on it, what are you guys thinking? How do you think you can generate more revenues that will make, not just fund your current operations, but that will make you be able to have enough to actually do greater stuff in terms of content that has quality for the people?
Well, I think for us in Nigeria, we, for NTA, we have established 3 subsidiaries. And those subsidiaries are mainly to diversify our income. One, we have a company that is into property and real estate management. The other one is called TV, that is TV Enterprise. We are into distribution, and also we are at liberty to also go into manufacturing of television equipment. And the last one, which is born out of the digitization system, is the ITS, which is similar, is going to be similar to the Centec in South Africa. So these are the 3.
Signal carry.
Yes, signal carriage, yes. These are the 3 alternatives that we are working on in view of the diminishing revenue generation.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. Right, can I come to Ghana quickly, and then I'll go to Lesotho, and then I'll come back to the panel. And we can now go to the more substantive idea of those solutions that have been propounded since yesterday, especially with the levy and the partnership with telecom operators, how we can make that work. I think the gentleman is in front here, if you're looking for him, Prof. Amin.
Yeah, this conversation about advertising revenue, I think if you look at the global pattern, this year, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation increased the share of advertising revenue in its total budget. And so they have seen themselves doing more adverts to cover up for the shortfall in public funding. We have seen that same development in the BBC. I think the issue for public service broadcasters is when more than half of your revenue is coming from adverts, it becomes a problem.
Okay.
There should be some revenue from adverts, but it should be very minor to your main source. And that fundamentally, public service broadcasting, as it is called, public. Mm-hmm. It is not the only public activity that is funded by the taxpayer or a form of public form of levy. So the bottom line is simply to state this, that fundamentally public service broadcasting systems are to be funded through public levy systems, okay, which will fund the activities. Okay. Advertising can be done, but it should be minor to the main activity, because for the fear, like my friend and colleague from Rwanda is telling us, that it will take you away. It will determine your content, and that is the fear, that it will determine if you are overly dependent, 80% for adverts, it means that the adverts will have a tendency of shaping the content, and that will fundamentally change the basis of public service broadcasting.
All right.
So that's what we are saying, and
okay,
we still have adverts as a minor component of our total in Ghana. Yes, yeah. It is still minor. So we are able to look at how much adverts determine our content and say no. It is still minor, it's not major. It's about 20 to 30% of our receipts.
All right, Prof. Now, let me bring in okay, I see a few more hands come up. I want to come to the panel, but first let's go to my lady from the Kingdom of Lesotho.
Thank you. I think, well, I want to start with the DG from Tanzania yesterday said, we have Noam Chomsky, and he actually was advocating for what we call, or what we may call, political economy of the news, who owns the media, and media ownership and control will always dictate what we see in media platforms. But as we come to public service broadcasters, I am more inclined to go with the speaker who just spoke from Ghana. It's called a public broadcaster because it has the same connotation as a public toilet, as a public school. It should be funded by the very same public that is supposed to be owning that public broadcaster. The moment we now go into the economies of advertising, this is where our content is going to be diluted and it will no longer serve the public. That should be left to private media. Advertising should be left to private media. We should go and actually tap into that market of levies. We should go and tap into that market of the public themselves using their own taxes to finance the content that they want to see, to finance the content that they relate to. Because if that does not happen, then we're going to face a danger of us either moving the public broadcasters into private or commercial broadcasters, or moving the public broadcasters, which would be even more dangerous, into state broadcasters.
Okay, awesome. So, do I have, okay, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, please.
Okay, I still believe that the public broadcaster should be funded 100%. But I'll make 4 quick points. The first one is about the advertising world. As you all know, the advertising world is made of cartels. So I really don't need to expound what I mean by that. However, I'll challenge the public broadcasters to actually review the advertising departments. I'll ask a question and I'll leave it at that. What is the average age of your advertising executive or marketing executive? When they go to advertising agencies, who do they meet? Do they meet old people or do they meet millennials?
Steady on.
Point number 2. It's about data. You know, in the digital world, it's about data that is real. The DG from Seychelles mentioned about apps and so on. Many broadcasters don't digest data in Africa. You know, you have an app, but you really don't care how many people listen to you. And this is something you can monetize. Now, how do you monetize this? For example, if you have more than 2 million people listening to your brand, and maybe you have 10 brands, this is something you can sell. The streaming itself actually you can have a function whereby people run an ad before they start listening to your stream. This is for radio app and even for video content. So it's us really like to really digest what space we are living in right now.
Okay.
Lastly, as we talk about telcos coming into the broadcast industry and trying to take our market, please stop whining. Do the following. They have the numbers in terms of social media, but does any of you like really study how many people watch what they publish? Or do they just put something and boost it? So heavily their content is not really organic. What public broadcasters can sell to these telcos and really earn out of them is selling experiences. Those telcos want to their brand or their product to reach to that audience that you command on your social platforms. Okay. So I'll only say, public broadcasters, wake up.
All right, so Itums, you give me 1 second. I'll come back to you later, sir. So to move this on, and because I'm mindful of the time as well, I want to take a quick poll here. Which one of us agree that the large proportion of our revenues as public broadcasters should come from public levy? Yes, from public coffers via any system by which, right. So that's half of the room. Now, the reason I ask that is because I want to go to you guys' panel. And Graham, do you think the levy system or the public paying, apart from government subvention, the public, which means all of us, paying for TV in Africa, in South Africa, in Africa generally, do you think it will work? And if either way, how do you reckon?
So, I mean, the experience in South Africa around the payment of license fees indicates that there's serious challenges. I mean, I think through public funding, payment of license fees to the public broadcaster, 13 or 14% of the required revenue has been raised. There's already a significant pushback from the public around other identified means of raising money through the levies, et cetera, that have been proposed or spoken about in the last few years. So I think there are significant challenges there. I mean, I'm in agreement that ideally public broadcasters should be funded by public funds, because generally they've got a mandate that they need to fulfill, and that's not a commercial mandate. So I would say that in terms of the longer term vision is that there would need to be lobbying around those particular issues.
Yeah,
in order
but
to get
if you also then look at it,
But-
we all fund, sorry, you go back to your thought, I just want to put this in your domain. We all fund, one way or the other, the universal access for mobile phones, mobile services, because we buy airtime or we pay postpaid, and then they take a chunk of that, and then they use it to, can that not happen with broadcasting or digital media as a whole?
So I mean, I think that is a workable solution. However, it is money from the fiscus, even if it is earmarked as specifically for broadcasting. So there may be some challenges around that in terms of the, getting diverted, et cetera. So there is viability to a system like that. I also think that, I mean, looking at public broadcasting across the world in the last 20 or so years, there's no public broadcaster that's entirely reliant on public funding in order to deliver services. So even your BBCs or the CBC that was referenced earlier, where they live in resource-rich environments, or they operate in resource-rich environments, are becoming increasingly reliant on commercial activities to boost their revenues. In some cases, that's not advertising. I mean, for a lot of public broadcasters, it's actually various elements of content, either content distribution or providing news services like news agency services, et cetera. So even when we scale back or even when we scale up considerably with public funding in those economies where it's possible, there still needs to be a diversity of revenue sources.
And that's what we are talking about. Because I wonder how many of us sitting here can actually say that X amount of my content, not advertising, my content has been sold to bring money into the pot. But that's for another day. My chief.
Thank you. I think the issue regarding taxation, which is where it's publicly funded, is one of the reasons why the public is reluctant these days, in this day and age, from funding public broadcasters, is because from their point of view, we are no longer the sole source of information, education, and entertainment. The BBC faces that, even some have said close, even the BBC, SBC faced that. And I think there are two things we need to take into consideration as public terrestrial broadcasters or public service broadcasters under that context. One is that we must remain relevant, and through the content that we make. They must be compelling, they must, through the eyes of the public, we should be seen to be important. And secondly, and I think equally importantly in developing in the democratic process, the issue that we can be trusted. I think Arthur made reference to that yesterday. People will come to us for credible news, for credible information. for facts. I think that's one way where we try to keep our head above water.
Okay.
Because even through the politics, as you may, or most of you would have, some politicians would rather do away with you and be able to influence commercial radio
Yes.
or TVs through their means. And this is happening, I think, across the world.
Okay, awesome. Miriam, what's your mind?
Well, going back to this levy that everyone's discussing and considering, looking at South Africa, like Graham said, with the whole TV license thing and the failing model and how that hasn't worked there. Implementing a levy, in my opinion, and trying to get the public to pay it is going to be quite challenging. And the reason for that being that, me being obviously a citizen of a country, I feel that the public broadcaster is delivering a service to me, which I have a right to as a citizen of that country. So the minute I start paying a levy for that content, then it's no longer a free public service. It's now a paid service. So I might as well be paying for a Netflix then. My feeling, and I strongly believe in this, is that public broadcasters should be state-funded. There should be majority of the funding coming in from the state and have the public access that content as a free service. It is a public broadcaster. They are delivering items that you have a right to see as a citizen of that country. It's news, it's educational, it's sport, it's your national team playing. You have a right to view that content. The minute you start paying a levy, it's no longer free content. It's like I said, it would be like paying a paid platform to view the content. Perhaps consider monetizing specific content on those platforms. So when you have a series that is a huge series that has many viewers, maybe rather implement a levy on that specific series, entertainment, that kind of thing. But I think charging people to access news and, like basic things that you should be able to view as a citizen of a country, I wouldn't agree with it.
You have a point. You have a point because citizens of country should have free access to information, and this information may be coming from public service broadcasters. But the question that comes from that is, if the public are not going to pay for it, if we say state subvention will come and pay for it, just to follow your thoughts. But Berada has just said that even the guys that are paying the state subvention want to get rid of you. They don't want to pay you because then they think they cannot influence you. They must go and pay the commercial broadcasters that they can influence, and they don't want to pay for your services. How do you think that is going to then balance out, Miriam? I mean, you're saying you don't want state intervention in your affairs as a public broadcaster because you want to remain independent, but yet we are not going to get funded by the public. But advertising is a hot potato. That brings a conundrum. You see my point? How do you circle that? How do you circle that square?
So obviously, not being a broadcaster ourselves as Liquid Telecom, we offer a service to a number of customers. Some of those being public broadcasters, majority of them being private. I think it is pretty much a catch-22, really.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
They have to rely on state funding, unfortunately. Probably not 100%. There needs to be other mediums, like we've mentioned now, the content licensing, the cost recovery that was brought up, the hiring of facilities and that kind of thing. And then I still strongly believe that ad insertion, targeted ad insertion, could create a very good revenue model.
Fantastic. So I also do think that the issues that have been raised also, I see no reason why, like it's been done by the NTA, I think, why the broadcasting organizations cannot venture out into other verticals. Like NTA said, they have a property company and other stuff that you're generating funds from. But let me hear from Zimbabwe, and then I will hear from Namibia, how we are managing over there. Can we go to the board member from Zimbabwe Broadcasting Organization, please, Eliad?
Thank you. We, as a national broadcaster, obviously depend on advertising revenue. We also charge a license fee, which is for both radio and television license fees at home, but also we have a car radio license fee, which is not very popular because I guess a lot of people now
hang on, Eliad, hang on. Let me understand that. So I pay a license fee for my radio at home.
Yes.
And then in the car too, I pay a license fee for my radio in the car. Really?
And yeah.
And you're collecting that?
We now, I guess there are really no penalties, but I think just recently ZBC's got a partnership with the police, so they have roadblocks and...
How is that working?
Well,
very well.
Do you offer very big I'm equally irritated by the delays because I guess if a lot of people now, I don't have, it's not quantitative, but people actually pull out their car radios and put them under the seat to prove that they don't have.
I suppose my interest here is collecting for you. Is that it?
Correct, yes.
Please.
Right, and
Right.
also the road tax agency. Road tax agency, when you go to renew your quarterly or your annual road tax license for the disc, you also then pay for ZBC license, but it's not mandatory. There's no penalty if a driver refuses to pay whilst they're renewing their license. But you find that right now, car radio license fee collection, that's probably bringing in more revenue than commercial advertising for ZBC. So this model works as long as you don't have other, I guess, unknowns, like what happened during the pandemic, where there was no travel and they couldn't go out to collect because of the lockdown situation. But I think from a national broadcaster point of view, I'm sorry, I forgot the lady's name, what she just said.
Miriam.
Why should people pay for this when they don't watch? But we find that as a public broadcaster, I'm sure the rest of you also have this scenario, sometimes we're not very appealing to advertisers because we break transmission, we interrupt normal programming to cover breaking news or state funerals or state events, and it's not very popular it's not conducive for advertisers. So there is a need to have alternative sources of revenue. We don't normally receive funding from government. We don't get a grant. It's only in the past couple of years because of COVID that we are getting a bit of support from the government. But apart from that, we would have to depend on licensing. That is all.
Awesome. And I think you can just pass the mic for me to the president of SABA, please.
Yes, no, thank you very much. I think, like we said yesterday, and the point that Berat started with, public broadcasters, by definition, have to be funded 100%. Maybe it was the case before, but over the years, that has changed. And sometimes it depends politically who's there. And if it is found that you're not doing what they think you should be doing politically, then they squeeze you. Then you start having trouble. Now, that's our reality. It doesn't matter whether it's yesterday, today, or tomorrow. That's the reality that we deal with on a daily basis. If we are saying that let's totally do away with funding from the state, then the model must change. And one of the first things that must happen, you must shed people. Because you'll never be able to sustain on a basis that would seek to be commercial, whatever you do. So that also is also something that one wouldn't want to see unless you are forced to legally. Now, today, the public broadcasters are in trouble because now with the advent of technology, there's online presence, the digital divide. We are no longer appealing. Even politicians know today that if the public broadcaster does not like me, I'll put my things online. These are the same people that must sit and discuss whatever subsidy or grant, whatever it is called, must be there. So the point is that we are at a stage where we need to start thinking commercially, whether we like it or not. There's no running away from that. In the case of Namibia, 70% of our operations are funded by the government as a public broadcaster, and 30% is what we are responsible for. And it doesn't matter what happens. At any given time, we know that 30% thereof we must raise. And we're speaking close to about $6 million per annum that we must raise on our own. Now we have about 3 components that are critical for us from a revenue perspective. One is advertising. 2, it's television license, same as Zim, I think with 3 or 4 on the continent that are still having that. And just quickly on television license, the maturity of a country that will actually the point determining whether people will pay TV licenses or not. And the best example of that working is the BBC. But they also, the same, you've just been laughing now when my sister was saying the police comes in. Even in the UK, sometimes people, they are being scared with, we'll lock you up. We do that periodically, just scaring people, and the payments really go up. But despite things that people are saying, they're also scared of going to jail. But you can't do it every year. So it is still a struggle. So advertising revenue from the 30% that we are responsible for contributes 54% of own revenue. Television's license and broadcast infrastructure sometimes will compete for the second spots. They could be 21, 23. And then the infrastructure renting, like we also own towers that we rent out. We also make a bit of money out of that. And then we have a small component of about 2% more or less that is linked now to very minor ways of income where, for instance, if there's a major production, we could approach an entity saying that we believe that this production speaks to your product. Are you willing to sponsor it? And then we recover our cost. But in the main, as I said yesterday, we stopped about 4 years ago to cover government activities that we deem are sort of like eating into the small revenue base that we are having. Government pays for Independence Days celebrations. They pay for state funerals. They pay for all these other things that are there on the periphery. And we've been charging them out for the past 4 years, but basically on a cost recovery basis. And how that helps you is that you're not losing funds that you could have used for other things. And on the day when those broadcasts are going into the area where we know that our rate cuts in terms of charging out is high, we have a discussion around that. Then cost recovery does not become the issue. It's about a matter of I'm losing so much money. So those discussions are embedded, they are there, they are working. In terms of TV license, the collection is also a challenge because with people now having access to ways of viewing via the smartphone and all of that, the big debate is that, is the TV license still a relevant way of collecting revenue for us? I just omitted yesterday. What we've proposed to the shareholders to say, we want to go into a partnership with the customs and excise element of government. So at the point where TVs are entering the country, that's where we want to discuss. Because once it's in, you won't know what it is. But we also know that should that model work, The payback might take a bit of time because you will now have to wait until people start replacing and so on. Because we thought of a utility fee linked to municipalities collecting, and our fear, mine in particular, was that if a municipality is struggling and they have your money, you will struggle to get it from them. We said, no, we're not going to go that route. And then on top of that, very significant, this year we signed a deal of being a producer for MultiChoice DSTV, giving us also additional revenue.
Okay.
And not just revenue, but programs as well.
Okay.
So for us, it's about surviving.
Well,
It's about surviving, nothing else.
my president, I'll stay with you. I want to say some. I want to put this proposition out, and I'm borrowing this from Miriam. Will the premium model work? This is what I mean. Content, you have a lot. Well, as public service broadcaster, you are obliged to give your content for free and find a way to fund it by all these means you have mentioned. Is it conceivable that you put some content under paywall, and the one that of public interest you get for free? But if I want to watch one of the high-profile drama that you've made, I, as a citizen, I need to pay for it. Quentin, now I will come to you in a minute online. I just wanted that issue to be addressed. Is that a workable model?
Yes, it is. Because currently, what we have deliberately done is not to rush in terms of a digital strategy, because you'll just burn your fingers. We are busy crafting that now to look exactly at matters like, how can we benefit from a YouTube? How can we benefit from an OTT service? How can we benefit from an SVOD? Because for us, we need to understand exactly how this will work. Hence, the presentation that came this morning from, is it So Fast?
So Fast, yes.
It's one of those that I personally will have interest in for ours as well. Because sometimes you hear about new ideas and you just jump into them, and then you end up burning your fingers. So we're very, very deliberate in terms of where we would be going to. And one of the points that came out was that if you structure what a So Fast needs, because remember I was asking on the issue of rights. He gave a brilliant answer saying that no, but you can tailor it to suit a market that will not give you legal challenges the moment you go beyond the borders in terms of where you are. So for us, the business case in this matter is quite an important one, because out of excitement, you may just end up spending a lot of money, wasted, and if that is sunken cost, you will still have to account for that, yeah. So we're releasing our strategy within the next month or two, which we believe will work. And part of those that we are targeting in Namibia are the telcos. Contrary to the point that was said here, telcos don't want to pay for content that is local. They want to go and get content that is produced internationally, but the point is people are not watching. Because the most attracting point in a country is the local content that is produced either by the local producers, independent producers, or the public broadcaster. We now have the leverage because we are now talking to the telcos from a position of serious power. And we are saying, if we sign with you, you will not deprive us from having the same deal with another telco. Because we know now that the content which is local that we are having is that thing that will want people to want to look at this. And equally, on the old material that is in archive, we are also busy looking to see how we can put that also on the same Benjamin so that people can pay. And we are saying 10 Namibian dollars if you want to watch something, it's not a lot of money. But if that happens on a recurring basis, you grow your revenue stream. Thank you.
Thank you. Berat, when you come to your experience with the OTT space, how are you monetizing this? Is it purely by subscriptions? Your citizens have to pay to watch your content, or is it a mixture of both? Hybrid, you view some for free, you pay for some. How does it work?
Okay, I think the important point about being a public broadcaster is that you have to provide, and to continue the argument that you need to be paid by the public, they must get it free. Otherwise,
they must?
Yes. So you have to provide, continue to provide the free-to-air services that you have traditionally provided. So on our audio-on-demand platform, on the same app, we have the streaming, we have the podcast, we have the YouTube, all free. What we are monetizing, for example, are the music, all the local music, all the new exclusives that come out. We try to pay with the artists. I have a presentation I was going to show. And access to our archives. So the growing library of content is there from previously. So the argument is that you would not have otherwise been able to rehear it again if it was linear. So you have to pay us for that bit. So there are two components: the free-to-air content, which is the lives and the podcast and the news and current affairs, and then the premium content that if it wasn't for it being played on air, which you would have missed anyway in these days because you're so busy, now you can, when you want to, where you want to, at the convenience of your own comfort, listen to that content. That's a premium addition.
The catch-up comes on that as well. The catch-up. When you miss a program and you want to catch up later, does it come under that premium space as well?
On the audio, no. Catch-up is free, it's a podcast, that's normal. But some other premium content that are from the old archives, we decide that they are premium. That's when we say you have to, we put it on the audio-on-demand platform called LECO. That's what they pay for.
Okay.
That's only. Just to be clear, we haven't launched the video-on-demand service yet. And one reason is what Stanley was saying. We got funding this year. We haven't gone to full tender precisely because we don't want to get our fingers burnt. The amount of due diligence that we had to do to make sure that we are not going to hemorrhage costs and services, and the amount of learning that we have done was precisely to make sure that we do not it doesn't become a burden and that we have to retract. Maybe more on that later. So, but there is a need for us to be able to do these things cost effectively. Otherwise, once you get in there, either you will not be able to do it again, and probably if we were to fail, the government will come back and say, sorry, this is not going to work, you're not going to have the money next time. So it's a lot of work.
A lot of work. Itums, do you still want to say something, or you're okay now? Okay, can we give the gentleman from DOC as well?
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to start on the issue of the advertising. We see, yesterday we did say, or we did observe that contrary to the view that advertising is declining, we see that there's been a growth in advertising in relation to consumer spending and internet access. We see that globally speaking, advertising is increasing. But the question is, so the pie is growing, but it depends who is that pie. So that pie is now moving more to the digital spaces. Hence we said probably we need to look at when people advertise, they need to see advertising in the digital space. But from the South African perspective, not that I'm talking on behalf of SABC or MultiChoice or ETV, I can only speak as our customers to say in terms of the revenue sources, the SABC, which is a public broadcaster, make money, revenue from about 68% from advertising. But we observe that advertising is declining over the years, and they only receive 4% from government. And then the other revenue sources, it's 7% from sponsorship and licenses, it's about 16%. And when you look at the MultiChoice, which is a private entity, their source of revenue is from advertising. The main one is subscription, which is about 83%, more than 80% come from subscription, whilst advertising is less than that, around 10%, and other revenue streams that they are looking at, technology services that they provide. And from the ETV, my friend here is here, I'm not taking on behalf of ETV, but I'm just from public documents that it's their advertising revenue is around 80% in terms of advertising. So I hear the argument that yes, it's good that the public media, public broadcasting should be sponsored by government, but the question is, does government have money? I think that's a big question. They're saying in South Africa, we don't have money, we wish to sponsor you, but there is no money, there are other priorities to give that money. But I think we still need to say advertising become an important aspect that needs to be pursued. I don't think we should drop it because, I mean, with the SABC, they've got the largest viewers. People watch SABC a lot, and they're making money from advertising. So the question is, probably you need to explore other revenues. I think we did not mention when you asked initial about other revenue, the issue of sponsorship can also be added into the mix. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. And Tapelo, after Tapelo, we will swing back this side, then we start doing the rounds up. I want to see if I can finish this panel by 4 o'clock.
Thank you. I think from me, I would just like to pick up from a point that was mentioned by the DG of the Seychelles. And I think he mentioned that there is a trend that citizens no longer depend on public broadcasters for their basic information and news, and they've moved on to other platforms to get that. So I think that is a thought-provoking thing to say that actually the public mandate that that public broadcasters are responsible for, the question would be there, is it still relevant in its current form? So I think this therefore calls for public broadcasters to redefine the public mandate so that we can be able to accurately cost the public mandate, so that once we try and convert or transform the funding model or mechanisms of public broadcasters, we will know exactly that how much is actually required for the public service mandate, as well as trying to establish the funding mechanism. So I think that is something that we need not to miss, because if I know for a fact that in South Africa's public mandate is something that was crafted pre-1996, if I'm not mistaken. So it's undoubted that the same public, or the definition of that public mandate, can still be relevant in this day and age. Okay. So I think that's one of the things that need to be considered. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. So now we have gone through this whole exercise to identify important areas where we need to focus on. I will come to the panel to give me their takeaways and their last comments. But let me just see if I can summarize this to say, okay, currently we get government subventions. We are not paying too much attention to that because in most cases that pie is reducing, is still coming with government funding, but that is not the main aim to stick to. And then we talked about advertising, and then that divided the house, because some of us are saying, why advertising at all? Some of us are saying we need to reduce how much focus we put on advertising, whilst there is a part of the house that says you're missing the boat if you say you don't want to focus on advertising because things are changing around you and advertising will continue to play a key role. Indeed, Centec just mentioned now that advertising pool is being enlarged, it's getting bigger. So make of that what you may. And then there is a concept of, we have cost recovery for those of us that have not been doing it. When the principal, which is the government, says come and do something, according to Ghana, you send them an invoice. They must pay. Namibia is currently doing it. Maybe in another environment, maybe they won't pay, maybe they will pay, but at least it's something to test out. Then we also say that there is the issue of facilities that you all own or you can create, properties, facilities including transmitter renting. Graham mentioned studios. You have studios. There are a lot of organizations that want to rent your studios. Can you put that together and give them the opportunity to pay you for that purpose? And then the big one, the issue of levy. How are you going to collect it? Is it even feasible? Is it even appropriate to ask me to pay levy to get content from what you are supposed to provide me as a public service broadcaster? If you're asking me to pay the levy, how am I going to pay that levy? And also, what are the mechanisms for making that happen? But the sense I get from the audience is that levy is something we should actively explore. South Africans are already exploring it, and I think, to my mind, my own opinion, if it works for the mobile operators, we can find a way to make it work for the public broadcasters, because, you know, if we don't resource the public broadcasters very well, we're inherently playing with fire, because these are the people that should be molding the minds of the population. That is the way I see it. Now, let me turn to the guys that are experts in this. So, starting from Graham, I need you to give us your takeaway, and then your summary on how you think this will go forward. Then we'll do the same with Berat, and then we'll end with Miriam.
So, my primary takeaway is that there remains quite a lot of work to be done with regards to defining what public broadcasting is, in order to help us define how to fund the delivery of a public mandate. I think that's one of the. I think that's one of the key things that was emerging from the floor. I also think that it's important not to disregard commercial revenue when you're defining public broadcasting and ways and means of getting money in. And that can be located in things like distribution, licensing, et cetera, but I think the big challenge is around developing an appropriate mechanism to ensure public funding for public mandates.
Yes. Berat.
Thank you. The debate on the funding is an ongoing one, but I wanted to make one that is very clear, a couple of statements. Aside from the funding of what we do, our raison d'etre, the reason we are there is we make content. And the point, regardless if, and that's why I would like to advocate the OTT, the online platform, regardless if they were not making money, there are two compelling reasons I would like to put forward. One is, if you can imagine the amount of energy effort that is made into the content that has a very short, limited shelf life, that you run it, you first make one or two free runs, and then it goes into your archives. Imagine that. Imagine two things. Imagine that, what if there were more people that was able to view, listen to, and access that content? It gives two things. Efficiency, value for what you've done, gives it more value, even if it's intangible. It gives value to your content producers. They are happier to know that there has been much more people that have listened to my content. And that's the most democratic way for that to happen, is that you put it out there, and whoever likes it will come and listen to it, and that generates the kind of creativity that the content makers need. But imagine another one. Imagine if you can make money out of it by making your content international, meaning that it can be viewed beyond your market because it is that good. And the Seychelles model, we want it to be like that, in the sense that we are a very small market. There's only, shockingly, 100,000 of us. But we believe that the content we produce are the same ones that the Mauritians who speak Creole, the Haitians who speak Creole, especially the music, because we share the music very well, and often illegally. Why not put that same song, album, on our audio-on-demand platform and advertise in Mauritius, advertise in Réunion, advertise in all the Creole-speaking countries? The market for the artists themselves because they get the royalties, and they clearly see the royalties because their play count is quite clear. So immediately you've done two things. You've actually opened the door and given more value to your performing artists or your creatives in your organization. And this is what we do. And if you can make money on top of it, that's the icing on the cake.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miriam, what are your final words for us?
So just picking up on what Mr. Berat said, it's actually a very interesting model, spreading it across borders into countries that speak the same languages and would enjoy the same content that you are creating. That's actually a very, very good model to consider. And listening to all the challenges facing all the public broadcasters and the different models that are being considered, like Graham said as well, I don't think that advertising should be entirely scrapped. As technology evolves and as viewers move with technology, as the demand for content grows and as this content becomes available on other platforms, and we see that viewers are starting to access content more and more on mobile devices as opposed to household TVs, it's definitely good to stay with the advertising model, because advertising on OTT is still going to be one of the primary sources of creating revenue. So my take from that would basically be just don't give up on advertising. I still think that it can create great revenue.
Yes. Never give up on advertising. It's been sustaining TV for a long time and it's still there. And just find a way to make it work. I think that's the last word from Miriam. And I want to thank you guys. Thank you very much. Can we please give appreciation to our panelists, Miriam Di Carvalho, Berad Dupre, and Graham Welsh. Do I have the photographer, please? Can you guys just take the group photograph for me, please? And then we can move on to the next presentation. Yes. Yes, please, if you don't mind. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Another round of applause for them as they step off, please. Thank you, guys. So we are coming to the tail end of our convention. Now is where we want to hear a little bit more about the dynamics, the state of play within the cyber space, how concretely things are being done. And I want to say as well that, excuse me. I want to say as well that there is coffee outside, but we won't be taking any short break. We just want to power through this and end. But if you want to grab a cup of coffee, please feel free. If you want to use the restroom, please feel free. But we will carry on. Without much ado, then let me bring to this stage the Director General of the Namibian Broadcasting Corporation, also the President of the Southern African Broadcasters Association, to come and talk to us about how well or how far or how much have they gone in terms of providing public, the citizens of SADC with pan-regional free-to-air content on the much promoted Saba TV channel. Let's hear about the state of play. And I think you have the opportunity also to bring into your conversation Willie Tambo from B&B Media and Mr. Metabane from ETV. Can we please appreciate my Oga as he comes to take that session? Cecil. Where is Cecil? Cecil, you didn't tell me that, I am supposed to also do the moderation for this one. Now, I've told the chief that no, I'm not. You have to do it. Would you please come? Can we please appreciate Cecil? Cecil will run this session, please. Thank you. Cecil, do you not think I need a break as well? So Cecil is the Secretary General of the Southern African Broadcasters Association. And I think you will do a lot more better justice to this than mine. And I also think whilst we have it, you will also run the country reports, yeah? Okay? Mm-hmm. All right. No, lovely. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon once again. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think it is one of those dying sessions. After lunch, people are like, a little bit too tired and too full. And so we can actually stretch a little bit, and recover from the too much food that the Rwandese authority have actually been feeding us, for the past few days, especially yesterday and today. It's good to have food, but too much of it is also not that good. I see my brother from Zambia is also yawning, It's okay. It's good to be tired, especially after consumption of so much information in such a short space of time. In the same vein, let me welcome my boss, the president of SABA, the other Benjamin in the house, Mr. Stanley Similo, to the podium. It's good to have you in the house and at least occupying the front seat and driving the house, from this end. Matipi, the MD from ETV, he will be telling us a little bit more about the good intentions that he has proposed to many institutions across the region in terms of the good things that we struggle with, that we do not know we have solutions for. I think he has the solution to the few aspects that we have raised here. Obviously, assisted by and guided also by the guru, an old, not retired, still active actor, a very well-known actor in the South African space and Southern African space, Mr. Willie Tambo. Those who do not know him will actually be at the younger age only, yeah. So he's still active. He still has it under his belt. Now, SABA has actually been doing a few little more things than what appears to really happen. And these things have actually been done very quietly in the quiet corners of the boardrooms where strategies have been designed and decided upon, being driven by the hard folks in the names of Dr. Chacha them. When they get in there, they take off, they loosen their ties when they have them on, take off the jackets, take off the watches, from the wrists, and they start fighting, and fighting strategy. And that is actually the one thing that has actually brought us here. Now, the one good thing was, that was developed was networking, co-production, and partnership. That is why we have the three gentlemen here today to lead us into that discussion. And without much ado, let me invite the president of SABA, Mr. Similo. He's actually introduced himself, well enough to the audience here, the delegation. Just tell us what it takes, to of broadcast that would solution to the broadcasters, to the burning issues of broadcasters when it comes to and the signal distribution.
Thank you, Cecil. Look, for us in the leadership of SABA, I'm a short man, so that happens simply because we're standing on the shoulders of giants. It's the people around us that are making us greater, and I think this morning, when you were taken through some of the programs that are currently in the making and that are running, it's simply because of the people that are on the ground. What we typically do really is just to give the strategic direction, and that gets by virtue of all the MDs, Director Generals, and CEOs with the support, able support of our technical partners as well. Now, as SABA, I think we've come a long way up to where we are now. And I need to borrow from what Dr. Chacha said in Swakopmund, that if we allow this baby called SABA to die, it would be like committing treason on Africa. Dr. Chacha, we are here to stay. We're going nowhere. That is why we are today also in Kigali, Rwanda. There's my CEO also, AUB. It's to say that this is ours. We must make these things happen. And SABA must fit into the overall picture of what the, as was said yesterday, we just need to find ways of dealing with how we're going to be interfacing so that ultimately we have a continental dream. I think that speaks to us all. Now, coming back to SABA, we are ready to launch at any given day. One of the biggest challenges that we are currently having is technical ability to actually go on air. We are talking here issues of transponders, issues of being able to actually have the signal go to our respective countries, and equally extremely mindful of the issues of language, because as was highlighted, not just here, but previously as well, the diversity in terms of how this must not be offensive to any of us that are part of this whole dream. So at the content committee level, they are busy looking into that to see exactly how we're going to deal with the issue of English, Portuguese, French, and also Kiswahili as well, because it's part of what we want to do. And that is already embedded in terms of what we need to do. Now, we are sitting at a stage now where the launch must take place, because as was said earlier on by the manager responsible for managing content, we already have content from within that can run for a full year. The only thing that is holding us back now is the technical ability to actually go on air. There are a couple of solutions in that regard. And that actually basically cements the position in terms of where we are. Ion SADC that you have just seen now is running. It's daily. It is there. And it's also fed through contributions that are coming from the member entities that we have. The same with SADC 360, which is the radio component of SABA. That one is also running from Maseru, Lesotho. But for today in particular, we're having colleagues from OpenView, the ETV group, and I need to give the Namibian position on this. They are bent on coming to Namibia. Now, Berat, one of the things that you must do is when you see your enemy coming, the first thing that you do is you must get close to them. That's why I'm sitting so close to the colleagues from ETV. Them coming to Namibia will naturally mean some elements of competition, potentially erode what we just discussed a few minutes back, revenue. They are a free-to-air service, quite strong. In the discussions that we've had, and we are close to signing, part of is that we will avail our signal on their platform, but then we will share in the revenue that they will generate from advertising. So for me, it's a pure business decision, nothing else. also to make sure that they don't cannibalize already. Even if the set-off must be such that it almost must work out to be a zero sum. But ultimately, I don't see myself as NBC not winning in this regard. So for us, I think within the next 2 to 3 weeks, NBC will be signing this deal. And on top of that as well, there's the element where we can get access to quite a big entity that is using that. And part of what we want of the challenges that we are also having from a DDT perspective. So for the first part of the program, that's where we are.
Right.
Thank you.
Quite an interesting approach. Where do you see, shouldering with a big player like ETV, with this view?
Look, they are free to air. If they come into the country, it's a given that people will migrate. So do I and allow them to come and take the little bit that I'm having? This is why I'm saying, as a competitor and an enemy, I'll rather keep them close to me so that I can feel their heartbeat at all the time. When I hear that it's irregular, then I can just look in the face, then I will know what they are planning.
Right.
If they are far, that could spell disaster. But for me, and as DG of NBC, it's a pure business case that makes financial sense. My reach, I also stand to gain from the advertising that will come out of that as well. So it is a win-win situation. I think it would be very stupid if I would not see it in that light. So for me, it's more about collaboration. It's more about finding areas of commonality where one can say, yes, we can work together with this. My normal signal will remain as it is, because today, as we were saying much earlier on, people have choices. They will always exercise their choice. And my one brother this morning indicated that he's private and he wants that relationship. So, my brother, this is already part of that process. It's part of that process. We need to be there. We need to take hands. We need to work together, because I think the plate is big enough for everybody to live peacefully and be happy, as opposed to him coming to take all my food. So we will rather share.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Brother Matibi, please tell us who you are. First, let's start there, because we have not really heard so much about you, the past 2 days now.
So, I'm Matsipi Matebane. I've been in the broadcasting business for only the last 8 years, but before then I've been the advertiser. So I've been working for the liquor companies, pharmaceuticals, and fast-moving consumer goods. So my understanding of broadcasting is purely commercial, and I've come to appreciate the complexity of the mandates that the public broadcaster has, and I appreciate it. The main reason I'm here is from where I'm sitting, I see opportunities of working together in Southern Africa and the rest of Africa with broadcasters, and see where we can firstly save costs for us and save costs for broadcasters. And secondly, also find a way in which we can all grow the advertising revenue. You must understand, in South Africa, we are where we are because we have got a very, very strong South African broadcaster. They are very strong, and it makes the cake of TV advertising to become bigger. Without the public broadcaster being strong, we wouldn't be able to achieve what we have achieved so far. So it's very, very important in any expansion drive that we have, that we find partnerships that resonates with the local market, and that can actually even grow the industry that we are in.
Service that was proven in Namibia already, and that was proven in South Africa also, as a working solution to. You mentioned earlier that you have a presentation that you wanted to share as well.
Yes, yes,
right.
yes, yes.
But before we get to your presentation, perhaps, Brother Tambo, you carry a big name, not only the surname alone, you know, but the big name in the film industry. Please tell us who you are.
Trust me, sister, sometimes it works for me.
Right, okay.
VIP on occasions.
Here.
Yeah. The name is Willie Tambo. I represent a company called BNB, based in South Africa. We've been on content distribution for more than 30 years. It's an independent company distributor. I have worked with a lot of broadcasters, especially in the SADC region. And we have given content. Sometimes we'll make better deals because of money has been a struggle with the broadcasters. And so what we do is to give the channel content, and we exchange it for airtime. We take the airtime and sell it to advertising agencies. Now, I'm with my brother here because we're partners. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna give the ETV, and we'll handle the logistics and the administration side of it. So we're also we're coming in as partners. We're not coming as business people. We want to partner with the broadcaster.
Right.
And then we also make the country, per country, to generate revenue.
Mm-hmm.
The set-top boxes for the ETV will be manufactured in that country that we are operating at, so that we create employment in that country. So the rest, my brother will talk about how to implement everything.
Oh. So it is not only bringing content and taking the signal, you know, distributing, it's actually more than,
yes.
It's more than what you see to the value chain.
Yeah.
It's actually end-to-end, basically, solution that you provided.
Yeah, look, I mean,
which is interesting.
Yeah,
and that is something one would rarely come across, you know. Yeah. Right. Mr. Matsipi, maybe take us through your presentation first, so we appreciate, you know, where you come from, basically, before we engage into further discussions.
Do I go there? Do I press a button somewhere?
Yeah, all right. So,
can you put up the open view presentation, please?
Right. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. Okay, that's how it works. So that's our new theme. We believe open view is for everyone. I'm just going to share the journey, where we've been, where we are, how we are thinking. And then obviously there's going to be points where we could plug into the individual countries. And I think at some point we're going to have individual conversations, but we can keep everything generic for this purpose. So we were launched in South Africa as a free-to-air satellite TV, and this was launched on the 15th of October 2013, and we reached our milestone of 3 million homes in September, and we are quite proud of that. And in terms of monthly numbers, we are looking at between 40,000 to 45,000 on a monthly basis, homes connecting. And I can tell you, when I joined the business in 2014, we were doing about 4,000 on a monthly basis. So South Africans have trusted us to bring them a service that entertains, that also educates. But I think the biggest thing for us is the lessons we have learned along the journey, which I'll keep on sharing and refer them. And the biggest thing for South Africans is that there is no pay. And you must understand that in a context of where the economy is, where everything is going up, to come up with something for free, it's quite attractive. I must say, from a research point of view, we thought the process would take us to get to 3 million. We thought it was going to take us about a year. The truth is, it took us 9 years, and there's a lot of lessons in that. Can you play that one? Seems like we don't have audio. Okay, I'll go to the next one. So in terms of the numbers, guys, we are growing at 24%. This is unheard of. But it's simple, is that our content is compelling. We are in partnership with the local broadcaster. Their content is compelling. Together, it's driving people to this platform. I mean, you can see from April up to now, to grow at this rate, it tells you you have got a product that customers want. So I'm just going to leave it there. We are being distributed across all the popular retailers across South Africa. So we already have relationships, and these retailers have told us, when are you going to Namibia? When are you going to Botswana? When are you going to the SADC countries? So there's opportunities there. But we are not only going through retailers, we have got redistributors that we are partners with. We have got independent installers, because one of the premise for us is that we need to empower anybody in the local economy. So we are trying very hard to get to that. And I think it has been quite a success for us. In terms of the installers that are on the ground, because you must understand that the very basic experience that, the first experience that our customers get, it's from the installers. We advertise the product, but eventually they buy the product, and you need to make sure that the experience of the installation is good. So right now, we have trained over 2,500 installers in South Africa. They know our values. They know how to treat our customers. So we've got what we call imbizos. We've got WhatsApp groups with them so that we give them the latest information. We need to also train them in terms of their business acumen so they know exactly what's happening. So these are the operational stuff that we do on the ground. So these guys also serve as our ambassadors, because some customers, they think maybe there's a trick when you say you're not paying. How could you get 21 channels and you're not paying? So these guys are branded, they are part of our ambassadors. I'm just gonna jump on there. And then in terms of supporting them, we brand their vehicles, we buy them t-shirts, we brand their outlets, and we've got about 100 installers that we've got shops like this in South Africa, and those are the things that we would love to replicate in that market. And in terms of presence inside the stores, I mean, if people have seen it on TV and they don't get reminded when they're inside the store, then you've wasted your money. So the biggest thing for us is we put the shopper and the viewer first. Because once you've got them, and then you can start really, they can start really enjoying your content. So everything we do, we try to make sure that we understand the journey of that viewer, the journey of that shopper. And then we present our products according to that. And then, besides from the installers, we do a foot soldier program where our local leaders within communities go and recruit maybe about 10 people, and the people go to the individual households and try to recruit. The number one thing about that is it enables to spread the gospel of OpenView, and secondly, it allows people who wouldn't ordinarily make money out of OpenView to start making money. Because most of the people who are involved in the program are not necessarily employed. So there's quite a nice exchange there. So in terms of our channels, it's a bouquet of channels. So we have movies, we have got lifestyle, we have got the public broadcaster, we have got our own channels, we have got channels that we share revenue that are partnerships. So there's a lot that we can do. We are not coming to the countries saying we know everything. We need to do deals that work for those individual countries, so those individual deals. But currently, as we stand, we've got 21 TV channels and 28 radio channels. And through Centec and through other partnerships, we are able to actually expand this. So some of the costs, we shouldn't be duplicating them. Like, for example, we believe our public broadcaster in South Africa shouldn't be going out to go and find a DTH platform. We are the platform for it, and it's for free. When we go to Namibia, why should Namibia invest in a DTH while we have the platform that is easily accessible? So that's where we are. In terms of the evolution, we currently just have what we call a very basic box in the eyeballs. In South Africa, now we are sitting at plus 28%. So that's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Matsibi is already providing, it's a bridge into many of our problems. I mean, as you rightly mentioned, we want to go DTH because DDT was a big challenge, and it is continuing to be a big challenge. You have the platform already. That is already a reason why I think the NBC already bought into this idea. And the biggest thing of revenue sharing as well. But my biggest concern is, at this point in time, is how would you then be operating in the Namibian space with that new gadget program and the new you being introduced into another territory? How will you find yourself, into that space? Taking, for example, the Namibian experience now, what is it that you're currently doing to make sure that you enter that space?
Okay, thank you. So, I think our approach is we are not gonna enter any country with the attitude that we know everything. We do a lot of market studies. We know the value that OpenView will add to the homes in Namibia. And we have done the numbers, and we have had candid conversations of where the opportunities are. We don't have to bring all our products. We need to know what is feasible for Namibia, for it to be economic and make decent money. We know in our engagements with our advertisers, the appetite to go into that market is there. However, one of the things that we need to resolve is around research capability. We need to evolve. We need to find other ways to sustain our businesses and our public organizations. And the only way to be able to do it is to have partnerships. And sometimes it's even partnerships with people that you don't necessarily enjoy or like. And we are in a position where, as a small entity in South Africa, every day we are looking for other ways to make more revenues. Every day we are looking at ways to ensure that in the next year or in the next 5 years we can still survive. And I think that should be the attitude of everyone in this conference. We need to survive and we need to thrive. Thank you.
Lovely. So partnership for the sake of our organizations and the viewer out there. Lovely. Mr. President.
Yeah, no, these things are not that simple, because even within our own respective organizations, there's also boardroom discussions. Sometimes they make things very difficult. But I sit in a particular position where I'm an executive director, so I can speak with full authority in terms of what happens in the organization. So that gives me a bit of leverage in terms of where we need to go to. And secondly, it's also dependent on the aspect of delivery in terms of what you do. So we may sit here, but many of us must still go back to our own directors, trying and influence them. And part of the call that I really just want to make is that at any given time, if at all possible, some of us must bring our directors along, especially the chairpersons of the institutions that we are leading, so that they can just come and experience, so that by the time you go and sit in the boardroom and you discuss this, that they have some appreciation for what goes on. Because if you go on your own there and people are not attuned with what you are talking about, you could be facing a mountain in terms of climbing.
Yeah.
But all in all, for this one in particular, we are ready. I heard Tsi saying here, sometimes you need to do business with people that you don't like. So I will not ask him whether he likes me or not. But it's fine. We will do the business, because the money is the important thing and the happiness of the viewers in this instance. Thank you, Cecile.
Thank you very much, Mr. Similo. Do we have a photographer on the floor still for... some of us have been now on the photos, for so many times. I do not know, right? I thank you very much for a very thoughtful solution. It was a good discussion and at least some exposure of a very good opportunity that most of the broadcasters actually need. And we certainly need to embrace what you're offering. Talking on behalf of, the Saba family, these are the type of discussions we have. And I think what we have actually brought now to, what you have brought, to the fore is already ideas that were formulated, but we just did not know where to go and knock. And this is one of the solutions. I guess going forward, we will actually be having a one-on-one perhaps with the respective directors and executive directors and the CEOs of the respective broadcasters to take this solution further, roll it out perhaps. And if need be, Saba is always there to help with the processes as well, and with the networking that we will provide and contacts as well. Thank you so very much, and thanks for your time that you put aside to come and talk to us. Thank you. At least for just a quick session for the photo here of the 3 gentlemen and 1 guy. It's always good to be among the MD. Maybe I will be an MD one day.
Also feel a bit taller. I think you can see why.
Feel a bit taller. Lovely. Thank you so much. Another round of applause for the panel, please. Colleagues, thank you very much for being such a good audience. It's gone 5 o'clock. We wanted to dispense our activities and program here and our engagements in this boardroom at least by 5:30. I guess we will do so. We're still in good time. We might go a little bit slightly over 5:30 and start the evening program and get ready for tomorrow's last function. But before we do that, we usually have developed a culture where we invite the broadcasters present in the house to tell us a little bit about their story. Tell us a little bit about their achievements for the past year since we were in Cape Town last year up to now. What has happened, what has developed, not only the people that have left and died and what have you, but what we have achieved as broadcasters, what awards we have won, how many services and how much added services we have actually acquired, to the bouquet of services we offer to the audiences. So without much ado, we have a whole list of countries. Not everybody has been represented this far, and some are not in the house as well. Botswana, unfortunately, was treated a little bit rough by the weather, and he's feeling sick, so he actually deserves our prayers and hopes and wishes that he gets well soon. And that is Mr. Raymond Cheko. He's a little bit down with flu. The Kingdom of Eswatini could not make it. We have the Kingdom of Lesotho around in the house. Oh, the sister is around. My one and only. I know she has another portfolio. I do not know whether she will be able to tell us a little bit about, the industry, but she is within the media industry. Madam Kotele, would you be able to share with us for 5 minutes a little bit about Lesotho? You can come up here. Everyone really wants to see that beautiful face you carry. And please share with us your experiences in Lesotho, what has developed. She was the acting CEO of Lesotho National Broadcasting Services at some point, and she decided to, move a little bit rightwards, upwards, whatever. Madam Kotele.
Thank you. Thank you, Cecil. I actually ran away from the pressure of public broadcasting and the pressure of cabinet, the pressure of the king, and I went into regulation. But like he has rightly put it, I'm still very active in the sector. With Lesotho National Broadcasting Services, what we have done, which also the president alluded to, is that we took over the radio side of the SADC TV, which we call SADC 360, and it's doing quite well. And also what we have been doing, okay, you'll also be happy that we are from elections and we have a brand new prime minister who is going to be sworn in on Friday. And we hope in his campaigns, he has been talking about the importance of actually ensuring the independence of the public broadcaster. I think we have been calling ourselves public broadcasting for the longest time, but while in essence, we are a state broadcaster. But we hope with what he has been saying in his campaigns that will soon change, that when we come back to the next Sabah meeting, we'll tell you that we are now a fully fledged public broadcaster. We are still on 90% of the DTT rollout, and which now the biggest challenge that we have is the acquisition of set-top boxes. We had initially gotten ourselves 5,000 set-top boxes, but for a population of almost 2 million, obviously that has not been enough. But now the other challenge about Lesotho is, as you may all know, is that we are a completely landlocked country. So the penetration of DSTV makes it very difficult for our viewers to actually go out and get those set-top boxes, DTT set-top boxes. And also, over the how many years now, we have since 1988, we have still failed to actually have content that covers like 24 hours on the one channel that we have. We still have, we have content that only covers from 5 a.m. up until 10 p.m. So we are reliant on our sisters and brothers from France 24. We are reliant on our brothers and sisters from Al Jazeera and the likes. But that's the long and short of it. But as we go into radio, then you will know that we do provide 24-hour radio, and it is mostly local content. We have a youth radio station as well, which is also owned by the state, and it also has 24-hour content coverage. And I liked it yesterday because when the president of Saba was speaking, he talked about the youth radio. It used to give me a headache when I was still with the broadcaster, because many people could not appreciate that the youth talk is youth talk, and we really need to let them be. Those are very free-spirited people who are very creative, and who have actually helped us at LTV to actually survive without the budget for content. We have now tapped into reality shows, and I must say they're doing quite well. We have seen how many people have now started watching LTV because people would want to see themselves on TV. People would want to actually watch things that they can relate to. And for the first time ever, I know why the Nigerian movies took a storm back then. It's because they were about things that people would actually relate with, that Africans that understood. And this is exactly the path that we're taking with ETV. We're still open for partnerships. I've met a couple of people, nice people here, who are willing to come into Lesotho and talk the issues of content and see how we can partner with them so that we, at the end, also have a fully fledged channel with 24-hour content. Because once we can be able to get that one right, then we'll be able to fill in the 26 other channels that have been brought in by DTT, which we still cannot utilize. Thank you.
She deserves another round of applause. One of the CEOs in SADC that when in Livingstone, Zambia, we did not really have a person to host the SADC radio. She stood up and said, I stand here to take that on my shoulder. And she carried the SADC radio on her shoulder until the day it was launched. She did not attend the launch, though. That was actually the time she was actually running away from the public pressure, I should say. But she really did us proud. And she is here because she believes in the media. She believes in what Saba has been doing. Another round of applause, obviously. Thank you so much. Lesotho has done all these great things. Let's hear what Malawi has achieved. And I invite Mr. George Kasakula. Thank you. Mr. George is a very passionate broadcaster and a leader. The floor is yours, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening. Good to be here to talk about the Malawi Broadcasting Corporation. To begin with, I was not there in Cape Town when you agreed that you need to do a report on what you have done. But despite that, I'll try my best. I joined MBC only last year in June as the new Director General after going through the rigorous process of interviews and everything as per the law. We're coming from a situation where the public had issues with their only public broadcaster. I think we lost our way in the way that DGs were appointed. Normally it was the President of State appointing when the law said something else. So the present government, when they came in, they thought we need to change that and make sure that the laws are followed. That's how I was brave enough to apply for the job, shortlisted, did interviews, and appointed. So probably the first success that you might say we need to report on is that fact that for the first time in many years, the government of the day allowed that the law must be followed to the letter on how a Director General for a public broadcaster, Malawi Broadcasting Corporation, is supposed to be appointed. When I came in, clearly the public was not happy, so we needed to do some repositioning, first of all, of content, even how finances were being run. So news being balanced, fresh programming, all that work was done, and the fruits were there because I think the public was warming up to that. So much so that when the time came in May this year, when the media fraternity gathered together to celebrate World Press Freedom Day on May 3, for the first time in many years, MBC, a public broadcaster, competed with private broadcasters and bagged 5 awards at that function just within a year of my coming in. So I thought that is another thing that we have done well. We also came up with a strategic plan. I found it. But one of the things that was in the plan was that probably it's high time we started another TV channel. MBC TV came into being in 1999. Since then, that has been the only channel at the public broadcaster. So it's congested with conflicting needs and the different, changing audience tastes. To solve that, we thought we should come up with a second TV channel, primarily for the youth, covering sports mostly and entertainment. I'm happy to report that it's up and running. I think it's 3 months now. We are struggling with content. So when the content was being discussed, I was listening carefully to find ideas, and I'm happy to say I found some ideas. Actually, that's one of the things that my coming here is successful, because I've listened instead of talking, and through that, I've gained so many ideas. So thank you very much for those contributions that you were making. As of now, we are trying our best to make sure that we give the people the content that they want. Sports, initially, before I came in, not much was being done, but I think now every week we are showing sports football from the local league, even international competitions, AFCON in January. Malawians were able to follow AFCON through Malawi Broadcasting Corporation only. and even the World Cup that is coming next month, we're also geared to make sure that Malawians enjoy that big football festival, just like any other citizens in the world. So, in a nutshell, I think we are on a roll, we are doing well, and we need the help of this community. Thank you very much.
Sir George.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Yeah.
Thank you very
And
much.
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This was, it's an achievement in a short span of time, you know. Getting into that office at that, with the heat that you landed into that office, I think you did a magnificent job to stabilize everything, including the broadcaster, I guess.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
He
much.
deserves another round of applause. Let me, unfortunately, we will not have any update from Mozambique, but let me now invite Namibia for a brief from that end. Yeah, I will do it tomorrow.
These legs are getting old. I think it's because of the birthday. Yes, the Namibian case, I think since last year, Cecil, we have managed to bring on board, I think, 4 new television programs, and one specifically taking care of the youth as well. And then for radio, I've just commissioned about a month ago short stories in all the languages that are spoken in the country, because we, apart from English, Afrikaans, and German, all other 9 languages are indigenous to the country. And it includes also one language which is also very close to us. It's the San people. They have their own radio station as well. As a marginalized group, we felt that it was important that they be heard and be represented as well. Early this year, I think in June, through Brand Africa for the Namibian market, we won the award for being the most admired media in the country as well. And part of that came as a result of research, because we are relying heavily on research in terms of the programs that we do. And we've been using that research to sell us, because it's empirical. Before, we would just be quiet doing programs in and out, not knowing whether people appreciate you or not. Today, we can boast and say, this is what we are doing. And we've seen advertisers now taking a very, very positive outlook in terms of what we do, and that is okay for us. What has not worked, as I said, is the further rollout of DDT. It's not going to happen because we're going DTH, because it has proven to be very expensive. We've spent about close to $5.9 million US, and the project still didn't yield the results that we wanted. So all in all, I think we're getting to a space where we really have great things going, and also our partnership with MultiChoice Namibia, appointing us as the producer to produce 26 films that are each about 1 hour long. We are now in post-production with about 4 of those, because within the first 12 months, we must deliver 13 on that score as well. And that also then speaks to the issues of how well is your content. And Glenda, she's not here, she's also part of that group as well, doing quite some great work there as well. And then we are also collaborating with other broadcasters. As we speak now, we will have journalists from Lesotho that will come and spend 2 weeks with us in Namibia as part of staff exchange, and that is also something that we've said it is open. And I'm trying to convince Dr. Chacha as well that we should do the same, because what we know that within our newsrooms in particular, That's where sometimes you need to bring in other people that can come and just show you a different way of how news is covered. And in terms of the digital space, at any given day, we can stream up to 5 live different activities, excluding the linear coverage thereof. We can take the same and put it also on linear TV should it so wish. So in terms of where we are with the little that we have, we try and do as much as we can. It's not easy, but if the heart is at the right place, then things are working. Thank you very much.
I think that is actually why research has been working. And one wonders how big your budget is. I mean, to do all these things, 5 streams of 5 different events at the same time, that's quite, it can be costly, isn't it? Or it depends on how you plan it.
It gets paid for.
Okay. That is one critical point. So you do it for a purpose, and that is for revenue generation for the institution. Lovely. I think it is one of the takeaways. We've been in Zambia, for example. Zambia is one of the countries that sits on a solid, should I say, a deposit of the latest broadcast equipment in the whole of Southern Africa. A very sound, very strong one, state-of-the-art broadcast equipment, and they can actually do so much. And I think once we start using that for the right purposes, I guess, will make a difference. Well, yeah. It's just thinking a little bit out of the box, perhaps. Now, I think Mr. Similo for Namibia's case deserves another round of applause. Right. Thank you very much. Let me now invite one of the strongest links, to Saba, Mr. Dr. Ayub Rioba Chacha. His office has been so much instrumental to whatever Saba has achieved in terms of rolling of Ion SADC and the Saba TV channel. That's why he remains a very good, dear brother, to Saba all the time. And Doctor, the floor is yours. Please tell us how you do what you have done.
Thank you very much, Cecil, for that generous introduction. I was seated there and facing the front. I did not know that people have deserted this hall like that, but it's okay. It's better to have a few of you who are committed than to have a bunch of them who are here for no good reason. Ladies and gentlemen, I know time is not our best ally, so I'll try to keep my presentation short. It's not a very organized presentation, but anyhow. And commenting on the previous presentation before the last one, I noted a lot of frustrations when we were discussing sources of revenue for public service media. And I even asked myself, why are we forcing ourselves onto governments? Why are we forcing ourselves to exist? Why can't we simply ask the governments to privatize public service media the way we privatized non-performing parastatals in the 90s, and so that we end up with no public service media at all? When I was doing research about the genesis of public service media, there are strong motivation that emerges for public service media after World War II is that they wanted media that could play a positive role, constructive role in their democracies, nurture democracy. When they looked at commercial media, they realized commercial media were for entertainment, chief staff, some content scandals, and et cetera, sensational stuff to attract money, profits. And then when they turned to state media, at that time, Hitler had used state media for propaganda. So it wasn't equipped to help nurture democracy. And that's how ideas for public media came about. And in fact, in Africa, if we were to add something, maybe we haven't had time to discuss more of that aspect. Defense of our interests. In my view, public media, public service media would be there to defend our interests. Every country in this world has interest. Every country. Even those countries and institutions that are trying to help us as Africans, they also have their interests. They are not neutral without interests. So it's important that we have media establishment that focus on those interests that are dear to us. Now, coming to TBC, I refer to my sister, my young sister from Lesotho, who rightly said that quite a number of media that refer to themselves as public service, they are really not public service because they are state media, where you would get a phone call from somebody up there saying, we don't want to see that news story airing today. And I can share with you, just recently, as I think a couple of months ago, I was also told that we have received a call from somewhere up there that we shouldn't broadcast a certain item. And then I told them, now, ask that person up there if we are the only ones who have been given with that order, or if they have given that order to all the other media outlets, including social media outlets. If they say they have, then we may not use that item. But if they have not given that order, go ahead and publish, and I'll be responsible. So as I speak now, we are in the process to enact a law. We are in the process. I'm with our corporation secretary here, Mr. Mlawa. We are preparing a draft that will go through the processes so we can have an act of parliament declaring TBC as a public service media. As I speak now, TBC was established by presidential order. So maybe through that law, a lot of other things will be in place. A lot of other things that we need in order for TBC to continue performing as we would wish will be in order. But we have been involved, of course, in reforms. And this is something that has kept coming over and over during our discussions. We have tried to do reforms because I remember someone used the word archaic, that when you find yourselves in a disadvantaged position, your equipment is old, your buildings are old, your employees are old, your thinking is old. Now, at the end of the day, you begin wondering, why are you not getting money from the government, and why are people not listening to you? What we are working on. And my brother, Benjamin Samiro, talked about doing audience research. That's very crucial. And I think someone else mentioned that also. And we at TBC started with a mistake. We were so busy, reform-minded, that we did not start with a serious. We did a little bit of informal audience survey, but we did not do a formal audience survey, comprehensive audience survey. So currently we are embarking on that. We have money in the budget for this financial year, so we'll be doing a comprehensive audience survey to understand our audience, because that is also very important. But I should also state here, which I said yesterday, that probably, because I do not want to accuse you for something I don't even know, that's not in my nature, but I'm saying, are we engaging our governments enough? If the feeling I have here from most of us is that it's like we are being abandoned by the government, they don't think we are important, they would fund other things, but it's like maybe we are not important. I think TBC has had a different experience. And one of the, just as an example, we went to the government, we said, look here, our staff are paid very little money as salaries and allowances. If you go to other media, our competitors, this is how much they get. Now imagine if they want to take our best, they would definitely do so. And we can't get their best because we cannot pay them. And the government actually increased not only the salary, and they are going to increase again, and I'm saying this because I'm in Rwanda, they also increased the allowances for our staff. And I have some of them here, if I'm lying. But the budget, for example, development budget, this year, we got almost 3 times what we have been getting in the last couple of years. 3 times. Why? It's because we engaged the government. We invite them to come and visit the TBC, and we also make presentations to them. However, they also see the reforms that we are undertaking and how the reforms are resonating with the audiences in Tanzania. So we make ourselves important, because if we can't make ourselves important, the government will also ignore us. And the other thing is because of the same things I'm talking about, when I was appointed 2016, because the old medium wave transmitters had actually decayed. And when I went in 2017, I went to Japan, when I talked about those medium wave transmitters, they looked at each other, because to them it's something they don't even have in books. They had moved on to completely another technology. So because they had decayed, they had worn out, we had to resort to FM stations. And we could only 4% of the country. But right now, as I speak, and with the projects that we have this year for erecting transmitters throughout the country, we are going to reach 98% of the country, and I think that is important. And already we are discussing with Tanzania Communication Regulatory Authority on the new technology of DRM, Digital Radio Mondial. We don't want to stay behind when it's time for that technology. We are strengthening our online presence, and we have done that with vigor. Our aim is to make sure that TBC is the widest, the biggest online media presence in our country, because only that way we can continue to be relevant. We are also in the process of digitizing content from our archives. We have quite a lot of content which is useful, and we are doing that. We have freed, we had TBC2, which was a pay-per-view. We have now freed that one to make it free to air. Why? Because we wanted to relieve the public service TBC1 from events that normally interrupt the programming. I think someone mentioned it here. It was my sister from Zimbabwe. How public media, all of a sudden, you are running a program which is sponsored by Coca-Cola, and all of a sudden, it will be taken out, and there will be a live program, a national program. We have also, I'm now finishing, by the way. Don't look at me that way. I'm finishing. By the way, we have, of course, succeeded to buy rights to air World Cup this year. And another challenge that we still have and we are working out, I did not hear it very much in our discussions, finding backup cloud centers for our, the content that we generate through digital I did not mention that from the beginning, but we have undergone digital transformation, digital immigration. Successfully, we were one of the first in Africa. And lastly, my brother, the president of SABA, also mentioned it, which is very important. We were in Nigeria last year. We signed an agreement. We went to NTA. We went to Voice of Nigeria and Radio Nigeria. But we signed with Voice of Nigeria an agreement for exchange of staff. So one of our staff will be flying out to Nigeria. And I think we should extend that to SADC and other regions as well. So thank you very much for your time. And I hope I haven't taken much of your time. Thank you.
Doctor, thank you very much. Yeah. Please don't forget that we will be in Dar, in Tanzania, next year, same time for the AGM. It was an invitation extended to us, like in Swakopmund a couple of months ago, and we appreciate your hospitality already. We start feeling, you know, the Tanzanian hospitality, the warmth there. I think he deserves another round of applause for that. Thank you. Let me now, my vocabulary was actually a little bit confused, you know, and I skipped an S before the T. I want to invite my brother from the other mother in the island of the Creole nation of Seychelles, Mr. Berard Dupré. Please come tell us the good stories about Seychelles.
Thank you, Cecile. Good afternoon. I know it's quite late. I had a presentation prepared. I don't know if my colleague at the back could put that up. Are you able to do that? Please? If not, whilst we wait, I wanted to say that I am comforted by the statements made by my previous DGs that have spoken before me, namely Tanzania and Malawi, comforted in the reinforcement of the national broadcaster, the independence, and moves towards being objective and impartial. And like my Malawi colleague, when the law changed in 2017, I also put my name forward 5 years ago to help move our broadcaster forward. I wish you well, and you're already on the right track to make Malawi Broadcasting Corporation, is it called, relevant and remain a strong player in the media field. I don't know if I can start regardless, and I'll wait for my colleagues over there to put the slide up. Today I wanted to talk about the digital journey of the SBC, mainly to sort of give it as an example of what could be and what should be for us to remain relevant in the new age of convergence. And before that, I want to talk about DTT, well, around DTT. If we can move to the next slide, please. Don't worry, it won't be a long presentation. Online platforms, radio apps, audio on demand service, and then OTT and video on demand service. Quickly, if I can move on to so if you can just press next. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Forgot that. So then regarding DTT, this is the milestones for that. It's done and dusted, if I may say, regarding rolling it out as a service. I think most of our experience it was an expensive venture with not full credible outcome. And that's one of the reasons why, from the start, we advocated OTT as the alternative. We should have perhaps leapfrogged that technology which the Europeans and others had back in 2000. I lamented about that last year. I won't lament again this year. We switched off analog TV around June 2020. So we have on our platform SBC1, SBC2, SBC3. We are the broadcaster as well as managing that multiplex, and there are all the free-to-air broadcasters on that. So I won't speak too much about DTTs there. But I just want to say the experience regarding set-top boxes has been painful. We spent 20 million rupees on set-top boxes. We get them for free, and nobody wanted to take them anyway, so we have about a third left. Calculate that in value, because people had already moved on to the IPTVs, which are already broadcasting SBC. So people didn't want to put an antenna in a set-top box, and that's how ahead in terms of the local media landscape we were. So still, the majority of people listening to SBC are probably on the IPTV services. And there are two main, they are as well, internet service providers. And just wanted to talk briefly about our online journey. We joined YouTube 2008, but it didn't foster much. We changed the strategy about 2017, 2018, as soon as I came in, for it to really pull content there. And all our free-to-air content, meaning news and current affairs content, had been put there. And you can see the growth over time. It is the most subscribed to channel in the Seychelles. Seychelles is a small country. There's only 100,000 of us. Probably all of you saying, what am I doing up here, talking to you like a village somewhere in your country. But I just wanted to show you that obviously the micro scale of what we're doing could expand to the bigger scale of what you could be doing. If you look at our channel now, I took a screenshot yesterday, and we now have close to 26,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel compared to 21,000. So it's still growing. And I would like to say, I will say for Facebook as well and YouTube, and as you know, this is how you could help convert your audiences that are there to your paying platforms. And this is what we are actually trying to do. So we also have metrics, and this is very important. And it's helped us to know where people are watching our YouTube, and that's largely where the diaspora are, and to see where we need perhaps to eventually locate CDNs for our OTT service or other services targeted at that market. And that's the brilliance of having online services, just like our radio apps. And on Facebook, again, we were there since 2014, but it was mainly to just represent the different departments and the activities. And again, we changed that. We harmonized into one page. And that's why it's important that even as an organization, you try to just make sure that you are not fragmented as an organization. There's only one SBC page, and that's where people go to get everything they need. And we created a multimedia unit around the time, and I think they've done brilliant jobs. If you look at the growth again, from nothing up to 30,000 followers, we now have, I think I screenshot that yesterday, 48,000. That figure is interesting. You say 48,000, how 100,000 Seychellois. So is that nearly half of them all following us? The stats show that it's not just Seychellois. The Mauritians, the Haitians, we have in the engagement that we have, because they speak Creole, they're actually engaging on the posts that we are putting, the news that we are putting, especially the human interest one. There are some very high viewed content there, some are going up to the 100,000s of views, and you can see that it's being followed around the world. And that is what then, I'm going to not labor too much on that, spurred us to move on to other things. And this is the precursor of saying now we need to converge and bring people to our own platform. And basically, we have the approach of moving our own platforms now. The previous ones, of course, were third parties, where there are restrictions, and including, whether you get revenue from them or not, depending on how many numbers you got. We're not there yet. And of course, the kind of content you can put on there. So our strategy, the radio apps were launched in 2019, and we've done very well on that. We launched it as a free-to-air, so you download it and you could get all the content you have there. And on the radio apps, there are the live channels of both PartII and Radio CCL, which is our 2 radio channels, stations. Each one have their own app. There is an engagement channel where the audience can engage with us. I'll show you that quickly. And then we moved on to audio on demand and launched that in start of June this year. Just a quick view in terms of what we can bring around engagement on your own app that is content specific to your people, your public. I don't know if you see the figures there. There are 11,000 people that have decided to subscribe and get into the channel. And they can opt out. They can press the button and say, I don't want in, or I don't want a notification. And so they've decided to stay to receive news and current affairs updates. Our promos, both TV and radio, are put on there. So if you click on that, you will see the videos of the programs that are coming up. Advertisers are advertising on there, so there's a space for them. And then there are others. We bring the channels in and out, depending on the event. For example, there was a Festival Creole. There will be a channel there advertising the, what you call the Creole, people who will submit their photos, and there will be a competition, etc. So this is a two-way communication with your audience on the online platform. And again, we started off with 0, 2019, but it grew. We had one there for COVID, and we had one for the Truth and Reconciliation. If you look at the bottom, I don't know if you can see, there is also where you can, the rewind is for the free-to-air podcast. There is also the YouTube. And I wanted to show that it's a mixed content platform, whereby whatever you have, you can keep your viewers and listeners in one place. So all our news and that are on YouTube is basically linked back onto that platform. You don't have to get out to watch the content. So that's the radio apps. The one you're seeing is for PartII FM, which is a green background. And I was going to play the case study, but I won't keep you. It's on the YouTube. You can just press the SBC case study. It's an interesting one regarding the radio apps and the journey we've had so far. There was another, if I can go back. Okay, no, it's not there. I missed that one, but there was another slide I wanted you to show you, and maybe the comment. And like I said, we launched l'Echo. L'Echo means echo. It's Creole, it's French, and probably resonates in English as well as our online platform, our audio-on-demand platform. On there, there are special podcasts. There are SBC archives. When I was growing up, we didn't have TV. We used to listen to the stories being told by some very good storytellers. Luckily, they are still in our archives, and we put that there so that the new generation and even the old generation can come back at their own and listen to these stories, and that should prove quite popular. And of course, music. Basically, what we said is that this is going to be the Spotify of the SBC, and extend it to the Indian Ocean Islands, where it becomes really an online library of the music. And what is important in that is that it's a way of giving back to the artist. We pay the royalties. So SBC wants to play its public service role of supporting talents. And since I've come, we've doubled and doubled the royalties we've paid. And now with l'Echo, we're going to double that again to make sure that the artists get what they due. As you may know, probably in your own market, the artists are doing very badly. They bring out a CD, put it on USB, somebody puts a few copies, and then starts sharing with others. That is a safe way for them to get some revenue back, both the old artists and the new ones. And that's paid via the Royalty Society of Seychelles. If we could play the launch video for the audio on demand I wanted to show and put the focus on, please, why it is on the artists, if you may. Leco launch, which is about that, if you don't mind. Really, like I said earlier, a lot of songs will not be played if the disc jockeys don't put them on air. Or in some cases, you've lost the cassettes or the vinyl or even the CDs of where they were. So that is one way of bringing it to the public and allowing them to choose. And now my own playlist is really a lot of old songs, Leco songs, where I put and I play on my car radio when I'm driving to and from work. And it's quite and sits on the, thank you. Leco sits on the two apps, apps that were there before, like I said, and we're now busy marketing in the Mauritian market to see how the uptake is going to be regards to them being able to afford, or we need to change our pricing. Our pricing is simple. For about 100 rupees per month, you can stream as much as you want. So that's, for us, is a simple model. If you can bring back the slide, please. And this is how it looks on the app, the artist there. And I wanted to sort of say, we are looking at archives, but we're also now enrolling the artists to basically launch their album with us on Leco, exclusive for a week or 2 weeks, and to bring the people, and then they got, basically, we pay them. And that is also giving them a bit of a head start to get some of the money back. So I'll just, if you can bring on the next video, please, which is about the launch of, just to show an example of a recent exclusive, you can see him here, which is the video footage called exclusive releases on Leco. If you can start. They've come to us, many are coming to us and realize it's lucrative. We might have a loss this year. It doesn't matter. This is building the bridge for the future to allow it to be the platform that the artist comes to put their content, knowing that we are not out there to rip them off. We are playing a public service duty to allow our culture to grow and our artists to basically expand. And that song is available to anyone around the world now. Each time they view, the count increases. When we divide the royalties, whoever has had, the most views get most of the royalties divided. So that is on LECO. If I can quickly move, we don't have too many slides left with our OTT service. We call it OTT IPTV, and this is what I wanted to make a sort of a big emphasis. We, of course, will provide the live streaming of our platform. We will make it available. The radio will move onto the TV platform because you can just, it's already on the DTT platform as a radio. You can listen live. Of course, the facility to allow catch-up is extremely important for any broadcaster to be able to, our catch-up will go back to 7 days. This bit provides locally the free-to-air, free-to-view that the OTT will provide. And I want to emphasize that for the Seychelles Republic, the OTT service is exactly like the DTT service. They don't have to pay. They must not pay. I'll come to the VOD, which is different, which is there will be the free-to-air, but then there will be the subscription VOD where people will have to pay. And on there, we will welcome third-party content, our productions, including the archive ones, which we feel in terms of reducing the costs. The SBC IPTV OTT model is a hybrid one. I showed the diaspora and people overseas, but still a lot of people are in Seychelles. And the best way for you not to incur the recurring costs is to segregate the two. And if I go back, there is a bit where we have a channel, which is not on here, which will be SBC Plus. This will aggregate all the local content that we own, and it will be the only channel we are able to push to the diaspora. It will be part of one package. You pay one fee, and you get the channel, and then you can view as many of the VODs as you can. That, for us, is the simple model. It might not work, and it's good if we can share experiences as we move along, whether it works, it has worked or not. We don't know yet. And I explain why we haven't rolled out the, I should have already mentioned, the due diligence that was required to make it happen. And one key due diligence is ensuring that Airtel, KBN Wireless, or Intellivision, which are the ISPs, are happy to host our CDN at their premises. And it's interesting, KBN Wireless, CWS, and Intellivision are in the broadcasting business already. They have subscription channels, a lot, and of course, mainly overseas content. The one that was happy to do so was Airtel because it doesn't have. So our first CDN will be located at Airtel because they see the benefit of having, or maybe taking away some of the customers that the others have. So we are trying to play off the market. But already KBN Wireless is very keen also to have us hosted at their premises. If we start with 2, hopefully the other will see that we will be at disadvantage because we have the content. What does that mean when we're having the CDN? It means that the data is zero-rated at the end for the customer, in collaboration, of course, with the agreements that we will have with these providers. And I want to bring in the issue of must carry. A bit like the South African, I think, model, we feel is unfair. They already have our content, and the discussion, if leverage needs to be done, is that, well, we'll pull our content off you. We are in the space we are playing in the same space as you. We don't need to give you that content. And the government understands that, and they agree with the principle of must carry, must pay. Instead of paying, it's an agreement that you will allow our CDN and bring that service to the Seychelles Republic. And all of them can. They have been pulling out fibers to homes very rapidly. Airtel has a very good coverage. That's why it wants to, of fiber to home. That's why it wants customers on there. And for them, it's a benefit. KBN Wireless been doing it. Even I wasn't surprised that they turned up and said, we're changing your cable, we're putting fiber. So that's good. So I have just a couple of more slides. But I want to explain the segregation. The cloud has to be done by a third party. And that is where mainly the concurrency cost comes. But they can afford to pay. So you have to rent it at these people that are overseas will have to pay for more and maybe subsidize some of the costs involved. We've done a lot of research. There are various grades of service providers. And in fact, we've gone down to limited bidding, meaning free, because we've been engaging in proof of concepts and all that and really seeing what is good for us. And the costs are incredible. The free we've chosen, basically there's one that is twice as expensive, another one that is twice as expensive as the other one, and there's a range. But the key one is the operational cost, and that is to make sure that, and the hardware cost, I can say it wasn't scary at all. It is your operational cost that you need to keep an eye on. And for us, by putting the CDN, the operational costs are low. It's the licensing that we'll pay for the cloud concurrency that is more important, and the platform itself. And there are so many out there, so many, and that's one it's so difficult to choose, but more or less providing the same look and feel. One thing that we had to add, we wanted a model where we didn't buy set-top box because we've been burned by set-top boxes. And we were pushing it to say username, password, because Seychelles smart TVs and telephones are penetration is high. But then also realizing that there will be a few people, especially our old or whoever, that still have the old TV. So we are buying some set-top boxes, OTT set-top boxes, hybrid type, that will allow people to continue to use the existing TV sets as we move forward. But what FAST, the gentleman about FAST and the statistics around smart TVs, that is the way to go. That is reducing your capital expenditure significantly, allowing you to put your money into where it is matters, content, and maintaining a good look and feel on your platform. I wrote this, we've spoken about that, with the ISPs, with the service providers, producers, local. So our commissioning means that we are hungry for content, local. We put money aside every year, and the money is not exhausted because our market is small. We've increased the rate of, we pay for different genres of program to intensify by 25% again. So we are experimenting. We want to grow together with the producers, and we want to put good content from local drama to TV shows to, especially the music we feel is going to speak to a lot more beyond just the Creole speaking, the videos that they are making, the songs that they are making, and these guys, we hope, rise up to the occasion as well. And like I said earlier, we need to make content that can travel and that can be viewed and that should be sit happily, like been said earlier, in the archives. And I've mentioned about this, and on that note, I think I thank you.
Yeah, that was the story from Seychelles. A little island in the Indian Ocean that is part of us, and very active, dynamic. And I think we were anticipating an invitation for an AGM. We've been actually waiting now for quite a long time. We'll start knocking. We'll start knocking. Because you've been too quiet for too long, Mr. Berard. Right, excellent. Thank you very much. I think he deserves another round of applause. It's quite an amazing achievement that he has made as the CEO of SBC. Let me now invite 2 more countries, and then we're done with what we would be coming here for, to hear what achievements we have actually. I'm sincerely sorry, but I have to call on our legal representative, who's also the acting CEO of ZNBC, Mr. Ruben Kayokoto, to the podium to tell us a little bit about what Zambia has achieved the past few years since that was Cape Town last year, and now, and we forgot to Put our hands together for him. Mr. Kayokota.
Thank you very much. Just to correct that I'm not acting Director General. I'm actually representing the acting Director General. Ruben Kajokoto. I'm in the legal department. I grew up as a journalist and then moved to law. So I combine both journalism and law. The story about Zambia is very straightforward. It's complete. The DTT, the digital migration, is complete. We took a different model from most of the countries that are undergoing DTT now. For us, there was a deliberate government policy that was put in place. We were guided by the digital migration policy in terms of how we are going to migrate to DTT. And as I speak now, we have actually completed the migration. So all the TV stations that are in Zambia, the local ones, are all digital. We've actually switched off the analog transmitters. So I won't dwell so much on the DTT itself. I'll just talk about some of the things that are happening. Because I say that we are guided by the digital migration policy. So what the digital migration policy has actually entailed is that there are going to be there are actually two players in the signal distribution, a private signal distributor and a public signal distributor. So what the government did was to tender for the private signal distributor, which was given to GoTV, to distribute the DTT signal. For the public signal distributor, the government went into an agreement with StarTimes, and ZNBC entered into a joint agreement with StarTimes to form a company that was going to champion the signal distribution. So Topstar took over the public signal distribution works. What happened is that in the digital migration policy itself, the signal distribution and the content provider services have been separated. In the past, ZNBC used to do both. ZNBC, as a public broadcaster, would actually distribute the signal to all the country sides. But because when the policy was put in place, it separated the two functions. So ZNBC was actually both a content provider and a signal distributor. So due to that policy, we could not do both. So we had to partner with StarTimes to form Topstar. So right now, in terms of TV, ZNBC concentrates on content provision. ZNBC is no longer a monopoly now. Since the advent of pluralism, we have about 51 private stations that I think includes ZNBC, 145 radio stations. So the competition is quite high on the public broadcaster. Now, the act that is in place at the moment restricts ZNBC to go fully-fledged commercial. We get TV levy through IBA, the regulator. We are allowed to do a commercial, but it's not fully-fledged because the Act also restricts on how far we can do advertising. There is a percentage, there is a restriction in terms of how many minutes we can advertise in an hour. So, but if you look at how we get our money, the majority of the funds that we get in terms of advertising spend comes from advertisers. It's the commercials. The government subvention is not there. So what we get is usually the TV levy that supplements what we make. We also have the towers that were put some time back. That also is being used by several other broadcasters that we actually make money from. I think in terms of the digital migration. What the Zambian government has done is that they didn't want to leave anyone behind in terms of switching from analog to digital. So when we did switch to digital, most households, some of those people were not able to buy STBs, or who bought STBs but cannot subscribe every month. The government deliberately put a policy that there's going to be 5 free-to-air channels. So whether someone, as long as you buy an STB, if you don't subscribe in that particular month, you will be able to watch ZNBC, the public broadcaster, free of charge. You'll be able to watch Parliament TV, and I think there's a new channel that we introduced during the COVID period. That's the educational channel. That one was you can watch for free. And I think there was a government-to-government agreement between France International and the Zambian government that the French channel should also be free. So France 24 is also free. And what the government did further was that there were quite remote areas that could not be touched by the transmitting stations. So the 2 signal distributors were allowed to use both DTT and DTH. So in certain remote areas where a village doesn't have a transmitter, they use DTH. And the government deliberately bought STBs to ensure that that community is able to access at least the public broadcaster. And those areas that don't have electricity in their area, they actually installed solar-powered transmitters. I mean, sorry, solar-powered, what can you call it? Solar-powered, yes, to be able to power the STBs. So meaning that are able to at least get the signal. So in terms of universal coverage, no one missed out. Just to mention that ZNBC also is on social media, just like many of our other players, the private sectors. We are now attempting to go the OTT way. However, we have struggled to get the right solution. It's taken us some time. I think we started some 3-4 years ago. We are still at it. We were hoping that we could launch this year, but as things are, we may not launch this year. Just to mention further that ZNBC, apart from having a challenge with the private TV and radio station, has a new challenge now. And the challenge is coming from within the government system. There is a push by certain government agencies to have their own TV stations. And we see that as a challenge because at the moment, ZNBC and Parliament TV may be the only public broadcasters. But we've seen Zambia News and Information Services, ZANIS, which is a department under the Ministry of Information, forming its own TV station. There are other players, also government agencies, that have come to apply for TV stations. Those are government agencies. So ZNBC, in terms of competition, we are having a threat because as the digital migration definition of public service broadcaster, it's any broadcasting station that is owned, controlled, or run by the government. So meaning that the money that we are getting from IBA now will be shared by so many other public broadcasters. So that's a big challenge. And what we've done, because last year we underwent an election, ZNBC was not very popular. We had a lot of bashing because of the manner we covered the elections. The new government has come with a different way of dealing with ZNBC. They want to freeze ZNBC to ensure that it's independent and it runs as a business. so that it can attract advertisers. But we've mentioned that the Act as it is currently does not allow ZNBC to do certain things. It's restrictive. We've been given a mandate by the Act to do certain things. And when we run to government to say, we want to cover you, but the Act says we should cover you, can you give us some money? There is a bit of some arguments there. So we are proposing, and together with our colleagues at IBA, that both acts should be reviewed. And probably this year we'll try to review the ZNBC Act together with the IBA Act, so that there is a solution on how ZNBC can be funded. If, for instance, it's agreed that ZNBC is going to be purely a public broadcaster, maybe we remove completely the commercial part of it so that the private sector get that cake that we are currently sharing at the moment. Just to conclude, Chair, ZNBC continues to be very active on the SABA activities. We actively submit our stories to Eye on Africa, Eye on SADC, and also the radio section of the SABA programs. We also have tried to embark on a vigorous MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with public broadcasters, and I think we are going to extend to private players as well. We have so far signed, I think, an agreement with the Rwanda Broadcasting Agency. We are in talks with the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Tanzania Broadcasting Corporation. And what we noticed was that in the past we used to enter into agreements with a lot of foreign entities, France International, Al Jazeera, the BBC. We never thought of having this collaboration within ourselves. So we thought that this is an opportunity that is going to help us actually do a lot of exchange programs and also exchange in terms of content. So that's one area that we want to emphasize on this year. If we can have a lot of these MOUs, then we do a lot of exchanges in terms of personnel, in terms of content, then even the budget in terms of content will be reduced. And that's one good example is the culture switch, which is very successful. Lastly, I will talk about the archive issues. ZNBC is one of those entities in the Southern African region that has got a lot of content. I think we were one of the first broadcasters in the region. So we have this content, but it's been very difficult to convert it. And like the previous speaker said, we delayed, we were a bit late. And we now find ourselves with a lot of archive content which we cannot use. Fortunately enough, we are trying to engage with a lot of partners from Europe. And now we were told there's another solution nearby in South Africa. I think we'll be able to talk to them. This content is historical. And most of public broadcasters in Africa have content that many stations don't have. And like someone said, this is gold. This is content that we can actually monetize and use. But if you're not going to digitize it, it will be very, very difficult to sell. So I hope that in the next few months, we'll be able to talk to partners, especially within the region, that can actually help us digitize our archive material. With that brief, Chair, I thank you so much.
Another round of applause. Mr. Kayakoto, thank you very much. ZNBC hosted the production team that went to do the culture switch in Lusaka. And it was quite a successful undertaking, that one. And we thank you wholeheartedly on behalf of everybody in the House, for the reception you rendered the team and the support you gave as well. Not only with equipment, but also monetary and everything else. were taken to sites and all these things. So, yeah. On behalf of Sabah, really thank you very much. Continue to please be the difference and make a difference for the lives of the people here. Lastly, I know we're really tired now. It's dragging on and dragging on. Yeah, I can see the faces are really being longer and longer now. Allow me to invite our sister, who has been one of the acting CEOs of a very historic institution in Southern Africa, the Zimbabwean Broadcasting Corporation, and who's also a member of the board of Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, to give us an overview of what ZBC has done and achieved so far. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Her name is Harriet Rushwaya, and a very strong journalist as well. The floor is yours.
I need a stool. You won't be able to see me. I'll probably
you can even sit down.
If you
and
don't mind.
please. You choose. Anyway, I mean, you choose. She's actually one of the tallest people in the house, so yeah.
All right. Right. So, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I now know how it feels to represent the Zimbabwe Olympics team at the competitions. Always the last one when all the kids have gone to bed. So I just wanted to start by correcting my Zambian brother here. Zimbabwe and Zambia always fight over who owns Victoria Falls. We have the best view. But also, my Zambian brother claims that they were probably one of the first television stations in Southern Africa. I need to correct that, because after Western Nigerian television services in 1959, this is the first time I'm also very proud to reference Rhodesia. Rhodesian television, which then became Zimbabwean television, was established in 1960. So we're second. Right. So I'll need the PowerPoint. So I've got a little PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to be very quick because we are all very tired. But because I realized that apart from myself, who wasn't in Cape Town, the majority of people here were also not in Cape Town. And having been a terrible student in my youth, I now stick to the script. And we were given a topic, which was providing full-fledged digital broadcasting and media, service successes, challenges, and opportunities. So for once in my life, I stuck to the script. But before I go into that, I just thought maybe I should quickly just give you a quick background to Zimbabwe, so that the presentation makes sense from a digital broadcasting and media provision point of view. In Zimbabwe, we recently held a national census in 2022. The preliminary results of the 2022 census were out in July, and Zimbabwe's population is estimated to be 15.2 million people, with an annual population growth of 1.5% in the last 10 years. So from the 15.2 million people in Zimbabwe, 48% of the population are men and 52% are women. Population is also very young, with 65% of the population below the age of 25. So that's very critical, that statistic, that 65% of our population is below the age of 25. And I'm saying this because from a service provider point of view, as a national broadcaster who has the public service requirement to broadcast, it's quite important, but also a challenge to get the balance right when you have such a young population in the country. So we were talking yesterday, and previous presenters also mentioned audience surveys. So in Zimbabwe, we have what is called the ZAMPS, which is Zimbabwe All Media Products Survey, which looks at a sample of the population at various media products consumption. And the most recent one states that 12% of the respondents reported reading print newspaper in the preceding 4 weeks. 13% read online publications. 55% reported watching television, of which 82% are based in the urban area and 31% are in the rural areas. Radio listenership was at 58%, of which 54% is urban and 62% is rural. I'll go back to something that I mentioned earlier again, that 61% of our population lives in rural areas and 38% lives in urban areas. I'm saying this because yesterday, again, there was a discussion about Netflix and all this provision, which in our situation is probably not critical. People will revert to local productions and local services, particularly because they're in the rural areas. We have, from this survey, 99% of respondents reported using WhatsApp. So use of the instant messaging application is obviously quite popular. In my opinion, I also think it's quite dangerous because I use my own mother as an example. She lives off fake news on WhatsApp, and I think that's where the public service broadcast comes in useful from a fact-checking point of view. And again, the most watched television programs in Zimbabwe are the ZTV news bulletins, particularly the bulletins in the local languages, followed by the main news bulletin, which is in English. So I think for that reason, traditional media, and particularly the national broadcaster, comes in useful, especially for our population, which mostly consumes content via WhatsApp. I shall now quickly go into my PowerPoint presentation. I'll do this very quickly because if you're as tired as I am, you'll appreciate this. The presentation outline, I'll look at the intro, current status, service successes, challenges, opportunities, and conclusion. And this is looking at Zimbabwe's digital broadcasting and media for Zimbabwe as a whole, not specifically to ZBC. Like we have heard throughout the last 2 days, the digital media has gone, broadcasting media has gone digital throughout the world. I see Zambia has gone fully digital, congratulations. And also Zimbabwe has fully embraced the digital era, and has taken various initiatives to that. Zimbabwe started the digital migration project in 2015, and so far 18 digital terrestrial television transmission sites have been installed in the country. The total was supposed to be 48. This will come up as one of the challenges because it's proven to be quite expensive, and ZBC, through the DTT project, has now gone fully digital. We broadcast in digital. However, our content is not necessarily consumed in digital by those who are still watching on terrestrial, and the quality can be quite poor, which is frustrating from a content creation point of view, because the content looks amazing, but it looks like it's raining for others who are further away from the stations. In 2020, I don't know how many of you follow Zimbabwean news on social media, particularly Twitter. Don't believe what you read. We don't just have one television station. We have we had 6 new stations that were awarded licenses in 2020. And in addition to those 6, ZBC has 3 channels. So one is still available on terrestrial, and all 3 are available on DTT and DTH. Community radio stations are being equipped with digital broadcast equipment. We have since 2022, as a country, had 14 new community radio stations, 7 campus radio stations. There are now 10 commercial radio stations in Zimbabwe, and 6. In addition to those 10, we also have 6 radio stations under the ZBC flagship. All the various newspapers in Zimbabwe are available on the internet, and Zimbabwe is also currently engaged with World DAB and SEDIBA to conduct digital radio trials. Our service successes are that to date, 6 free-to-air television services are available on the DTT platform. All 6 national radio stations are also available both on DTT and DTH. And obviously, looking at our population, which is 61% rural, the government has procured 100,000 set-top boxes to enable the less privileged consumers in remote areas to access digital television services. This is not enough, but I still think this is a good number, but also set-top boxes have proven to be quite expensive. And I think a lot of people are going the DTH route, which is quite fascinating, but also from a monitoring point of view, it makes it really difficult for us to have an idea of what content is being consumed. The challenges for DTT and digital broadcasting have been mentioned by several speakers. Limited resources to complete the migration project. I was talking to one of my colleagues earlier in the week, and I was asking, in hindsight, if they knew then what they know now, what would they have changed regarding this? And he was saying probably a private-public partnership would have been easier for resource mobilization, but still would have stuck to DTT, obviously, because it's mandatory and for other reasons. The challenges regulating internet-based broadcasting services has again cropped up as one of the challenges. And the issue of content with more and more broadcasting services out there, there is more demand for content, and and also I think we shouldn't forget that we lost almost 16 months of content creation during the COVID era when there was restriction in movements, etc. Opportunities available in the past couple of years is that more television services, and that will promote the development of the creative arts industry to meet the high content demand. And also, obviously, the digital trials will enable Zimbabwe to provide more radio services, which are in high demand. I mean, radio is very popular in Zimbabwe. In conclusion, Zimbabwe is targeting to be an upper middle income economy by 2030 with a full-fledged digital broadcasting and media landscape. And again, just to go, oh, I see the guys, I've got one last clip that I just wanted to play. In response to the demands and ZBC's one of the 3 channels that were launched on DTT and DTH is a music channel, which is proven to be quite popular with the youths, and considering that our population is very young, 65%, under 25, it was quite well received, and we hope that other channels will provide a different genre for the different targets and age groups that we have. So if I can just ask the controller to play the video. It's less than a minute, and then I will be done. So this is a new channel that was recently launched by ZBC. So that's us.
So, and that is, it's a 24-hour channel? Music video?
Yes, it is.
Right.
The channel is.
But all imported music, eh?
Pardon?
Not...
It's all, no, mostly local music.
Local music.
And yesterday, I remember Benji asked a question about content provision, the percentages, and for Zimbabwe, 75% has to be local content, and 25 outside Zimbabwe. And when this was introduced, this policy was introduced in the probably 2012, 2015. It was very unpopular, but because of that, it led to the creation and it grew the local music industry, especially, yeah. So.
Well, thank you very much. Another round of applause to Madam Elliott. This was quite good. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having been such an awesome audience. I know you're tired, but this is actually what we came here for. On behalf of my team and myself, I want to say thank you, and I hand over everything now to Sir Oga Benjamin Pius to do further damage.
I'm not about to do any damage, and I don't know why you keep reminding us we are tired. Are we tired? We're not tired. We can stay out till 10 o'clock, yeah, Cecil. Really? Thank you very much, Cecil. Can we give Cecil a round of applause, please? So we are now in the section where we are rounding off, and my job here is simple, to say a lot of thank yous. And first of all, I want to go back to my earlier comments when we started it all. And when I said our job started last year at the end of last SABA meeting in Cape Town. The minute that ended, we started working for the next one. And we could only work on the next one because we knew where we were going. And we knew where we were going because the host, AAA, Arthur Asimwe, said, come, we'll host you. I know he's going to come and say his bit later, but if you don't mind, I want you upstanding so people can really give you an appreciation that you deserve because you've been a fabulous host. Priest, Dr. Alhaji Chief Asimwe Arthur, please stand up. That's our host. Please, can we give him a round of applause, please? Thank you, sir. I really appreciate the fact that, again, we've been here now for a few days, and I've never heard someone said anything not positive about the country, about you, about your cultural presentation, about your people, and now we are going to have another dinner. I think it's been fabulous. We appreciate it. We appreciate it from the depth of our heart. Thank you. Now, these events, I'm sure you'll be wondering, what does it take to put this together? It takes a lot, I can assure you that, because we've been doing it for quite a bit. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all if we don't have two components in place. If we don't have our speakers, panelists, which in our speak we call resource people, if we don't have them signing up and say, we want to come and speak, we want to come and join you, it's false flat. It's not going to happen. Because what people don't know is that most of our speakers, not all of them, most of them, they do it out of the love they have for the industry because we do not pay them. My team rings them up or send them an email and say, hey, we want you to come to Kigali to come and do a presentation or to come and speak to the industry, and they say yes. And then they turn up. They turn up from Mali, they turn up from Nigeria, they turn up from Botswana, they turn up from the Seychelles, they turn up from everywhere. And because of that, guys, I really, really need to reserve a special appreciation for all our speakers and panelists that have been part of this event. Please, can we give them a round of applause? Obviously, I would have loved to mention you individually by name, but we have quite a lot of you, and as Cecil always say, we are tired, so I don't want to spend too much time. And I really appreciate that. And I wish, you see, someone has been trying to tell me how to say thank you in Kenya, Rwanda, right? I still don't know it. I'm so bad. And in any language, thank you. I really appreciate it. Another set of group that we need to have, and we always try to have, and they always try to be with us, are our sponsors, partners. I've mentioned the hosts. They spend a lot of money. This doesn't come cheap. They spend a lot of time. And also we have others as well. We have our sponsors, our partners. They don't only give us money, by the way. They also contribute as speakers. They bring content. They bring knowledge. And I'm talking of, I don't want you to stand up when I call you, but just give us a wave and we can appreciate you because I need to do this. You are not a lot, which is, maybe we should have a lot. Well, we are talking of Centec in the room. Please just wave so people can appreciate you. Awesome, thank you. Do I have France 24 in the room? France 24? All right, awesome. Thank you very much. Do I have Eutelsat? Eutelsat. Merci beaucoup, thank you. And I have Liquid, there you go, that's Liquid, thank you very much. Last but not least, AFP. Awesome. On the question of AFP is going to be doing a small workshop, speaking to Saba senior executives tomorrow. I'm not too sure if it's a closed or open thing, but I understand if you want to attend, just let me know. I will speak to the Saba folks and the AFP guys. If they want you there, we'll get you in there. But I think it's going to be a powerful presentation they're going to be having tomorrow. So thanks to our sponsors. And now I want to go to the group of people that you can have all the money you want as an event organizer. You can have all the best speakers. But if you don't have these people, the team, the operation teams that make things work, the people that came here to book this hotel, the people that send out the email reminding you every day that you have an event to go to, the people that picked you up from the airport, even if, at times things, but there are people there that also always make sure that things doesn't go too wrong. The people that, make sure that the small things are looked after so that the big things that can happen. We have a team. My team, represented here by, and when I call you, please stand up because I need to bring all of you here. You pardon me because these guys are important. They need to come here so we can appreciate them. My team are represented by Nelly and Nonku. Can you guys come to the front? From RBA, can I get Abel, Domina, Alain, and Sammy? If you are in the room, please come forward. Yeah, Abel, Domina, Alain, please, guys, come quick. Nelly, chop. Yes, can we please appreciate these guys? They have done a hell of a job. I mean, I'll wait for you guys to come up here first before I finish. So I'm sure Arthur will bear me witness. You see these guys, they've received a lot of shouting, a lot of abuse from us, from me and Arthur. They've received so much instructions, but they bore it well. I think they are looking fresher than we are, even if they did most of the work. So guys, these are the guys that made it happen. Thank you very much, guys. I really do appreciate you from BMA and RBA. And one person that wants to join you, who also has been part of this from day one, and I cannot but say thank you to my biggest oga of all, Cecil. Cecil, please, where are you? Is Cecil here? Oh dear, the biggest of his occasion, he ran away. I must check what he's doing in his room, guys. All right, thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate you. And Cecil as well. Now, what's next, guys? What's next? There are a few things that we want to run through quickly. So I mentioned that we are going to be having the OTT summit in Cape Town in February. And also we are looking at doing a regional version of this in West Africa, in East Africa, and also in my home country, Nigeria. And we will be coming back this time next year. We will be coming back to do the African one, which will always include the Saba AGM. And this time next year, we are going to, I can officially announce, Zanzibar in Tanzania. Now, don't clap. Yeah, it's not me that's taking you to Zanzibar. Can I ask Dr. Ayub Riobachacha to come, please, and give us a bit of a flavor of what we have? He's going to be our host, so please, can we give him a round of applause now?
Thank you, Benjamin. I'll try to be very brief. Zanzibar, as you all know, pre-independence was a trade post for a lot of commodities from the Middle East, slaves. And then in 1963, the first elections after independence, where the blacks again, as always, lost. So they staged a and in 1964, of course, we had a union, Zanzibar and Tanganyika. So it's a beautiful country, Zanzibar, with Stone Town, the capital, with that beautiful architecture of narrow streets and stone-walled houses. Zanzibar has beautiful beaches. I'm sure you can Google this and find out. Swahili-speaking, welcoming, very friendly people, though reserved, of course. Majority of them, about 90%, are Muslims. But it's also a leading destination for tourism in East Africa, as everyone knows. It's also known as the island, the Spice Islands, because of spices that are found on the island, and of course, be prepared to eat spicy foods. And Zanzibar is also known for its famous Zanzibar International Film Festival. I'm sure some of you have heard about it. We also have musical festivals, and you would find arts, culture, and museums, amazing museums, And it's a place for Oriental trade and products, which you will find in abundance. Currently, the president, Hussein Ali Mwinyi, Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, is undertaking some critical reforms to attract investments, boost the economy, and create jobs. And the philosophy on that is referred to as blue economy. And Zanzibar has produced renowned scholars of international repute. If you Google, you'll find them. Because I don't have time, I would have given you some of them. Some of the leading, for example, artists and authors. And our current president, by the way, Samia Suluhu Hassan, comes from Zanzibar. She's the first woman to lead our country. Thank you. Awesome. We can't wait to say Karibu to Zanzibar next year. Thank you.
Zanzibar, here we come. So the DG has just told me, Benjamin, your work is starting, and we need to have a chat about how we make it even better and bigger. And I said, yes, sir, we will do that. So that said, I want to move this on now by inviting our co-convener to give their closing remarks. And I've been informed that, not the host, you come last, boss. Sorry, the co-convener. Okay, don't worry, you will have your chance to say. Dr. Bera Dupre, I understand you are going to be the person that's going to say a final word. Did they not tell you? You look so surprised. They didn't tell you? Well, there you are. You're on the spotlight now, sir. Come on. The final words from Saba before we go to our host.
Thank you very much for saying yes. It's democracy.
This is the second time the president does this to me. My first Sabah I attended in 2017 in Namibia, well hosted by yourselves. And this time you kindly requested before to give the closing speech. Now it came as a surprise. So I'm not really prepared to what to say, but I'll try. Firstly, my first time in Rwanda. It's beautiful. I'm hoping on Friday and Saturday we'll get a chance to visit. And I was already telling Arthur that the food, very nice. There was no blend in anything. Spicy, well-balanced, and everything. And I hope you concur, as you have clapped. So on behalf of my seniors and the Sabah board, I would like to thank you, firstly, for offering the invitation to Sabah for us to come to your beautiful country and for hosting us very well. So another round of applause for our host. I wanted also to recognize Broadcast Media Africa, our colleague here who makes it look easy, and I know it isn't. So that's what makes you good. I think it's a good collaborative partnership that is bringing, and in fact, it is very good since I've been coming for the past few years. As SBC, we're small, but we want to support the African initiative. To see our compatriots, colleagues from non-SADC territories with us, I probably think that is a lot to do with you. And thank you for that. Thank you, Nigeria, Mali, and I'm sure I've forgotten a few other countries who are here with us. Today, in the past few days, we've shown that content knows no boundaries. So should our collaboration, should our sharing of knowledge and challenges and issues. If only we had more time, it's always good to hear each other's stories, each other's challenges. We're facing very difficult times, but there are also opportunities. And the examples that we've seen today, whether it is Namibia trying to collaborate with ETV and all of those, should inspire us to say that it's not all doom and gloom. We are there for a reason, and the reasons, especially as broadcasters, are vast. I tell my staff that we are privileged to be working in that's especially when they tend to forget, in a field where we are able to educate, inform, entertain people. And also we should take the opportunity to inspire them and also help further the democratic ideas. All of you here, in your own ways, are trying to do that. And the supporting organizations that do help us, whether it is Centec with all the others, the Liquid Telecom and all the sponsorship, we are all in this together. And I think when it boils down to the human factor in all of what we do is important. So this is a very good example of bringing people from all kind of backgrounds, interests, and motivations for one goal. So we thank everybody for attending. We thank our sponsors again. And we hope that we can, when we look forward, for my first time in Zanzibar, and to be hosted by our host, and so that we can bring all others together and have this discussion and share our experiences. I am tempted to not be told again next year, what about the Seychelles or after? Hopefully next year, the very big building that is being built by the Chinese for us, massive, will be ready, and hopefully we'll then be able to welcome you guys in 2024. And I do hope that we can reciprocate the hospitality of our Rwandan colleagues here. On that note, I thank you all and wish you a good evening. Thank you. That's my phone. Mr. Similo owes me a few dollars.
Yes, he has to pay up, put you on the spot like that. I will call on Isabel, our hostess that's been doing a good job, to introduce our host finally and get things going. But before I do that, I want to say two things. First, we have a dinner tonight, guys. Please now. Sundown. Yep. Now, 7:30. Can we all make 7:30? I need to have an agreement with the house. 7:30, can we all make it? Or do we were supposed to be 7:30. Can we all be ready for 7:30? Now, we need to congregate at the reception downstairs. The bus will take us to where we are having dinner. Now, if you're not able to make it to the bus, you can take your own, make your own way there. It's the sundown now, right? Yeah. If you want more information, just contact any of the team. They will tell you how to get there. 7:30, we will, I've been promised that it's going to be wow, like last night. And one final thing, we've been hearing about RwandaTV. Dennis Chua, can you please stand up quickly for me? Dennis. Right, that is the chairman that is pulling everything together for RwandaTV. And the guy that is making it happen, essentially, is the boss. Can we give him a round of applause, please? That's me. Until we meet again, I thank you very much. I'm sure we will see each other and see you around. For those of us that are traveling, which essentially is most of us, I want to wish you safe travels and see you again. God bless you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. I want to start by thanking my co-pilots who did an incredible job moderating. Could we please appreciate them? Yeah. It's been a joy facilitating alongside them and staying with you the whole day. I feel like it was class for me. I've learned so much. It's been a cocktail of just wisdom, information, so much to learn from each other. And it just really emphasizes the need to keep talking. And I think that as you convened, something stood out for me. I think it was the lovely